Earth is an amnesiac planet.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why when we're born here, we don't remember everything or who we are and where we come from in spirit. Is the way this planet works, the grid is set up that when you enter into the physical body, you're put in a separate distorted reality bubble from the rest of the multiverse. You're given your own little distorted reality bubble, and part of the programming in that is that it temporarily cuts you off from your memory. So it's as though you're experiencing life for the first time, and that's why there's so many humans on the planet, and that's why so many beings come to be incarnate here. There's also a big portal right outside of our solar system, and it's kind of like beings use this portal to get to other universes, other places very far away.
Welcome, my friends, to the Quantum Shamans presented by Moshi, the Ministry of Shamanic Healing and Integration, bringing you insights into the spiritual secrets of the mind and the universe around you. We are here to help you on your spiritual journey and path of healing. And now your hosts, David and Anthony.
Welcome to Quantum Shamans presented by Moshi. I'm Anthony.
And I'm David.
And today we have one of my favoriteest people in the whole wide world, Mr. Casey McBride. Hi, Casey.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Oh man, we're so glad to have you
to
here.
have you.
Oh,
Sweet.
we have a lot of ground to cover today.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
to
But
talk
before
about.
we get started, Dave, could you please tell us about the Moshi Vision Statement?
Absolutely. The Ministry of Shamanic Healing aims to help individuals heal from spiritual maladies stored as energy in the subconscious that manifest in the form of trauma, PTSD, physical illness, mental health issues, and addiction. These practices include but are not limited to yoga, breathwork, meditation and mindfulness practices, Reiki, sweat lodge ceremonies, sensory deprivation, sacred plants, and any other ritual healing we collectively decide to establish. We hold ritual healing for our community to heal collectively in a safe space, as well as individual ritual healing tailored to the members of our collective for the purpose of intensive inner work. Our most important responsibility is to help our members integrate their individual and collective experiences in order to ameliorate their spiritual maladies and spread love for the betterment of mankind. Our belief is that our collective consciousness is God. Every living organism has a purpose and is essential for homeostasis. From the single-cell organisms to the observable universe, we are all equally important and connected. We all deserve love, respect, peace, harmony, and forgiveness. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love conquers all.
Woo, woo.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Wow, Dave, that was great.
Beautiful.
Wow, the vibes are really powerful already.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
Oh, yeah.
Just
I
sitting
can
here
feel it.
getting this
Yeah.
place.
As soon as I walked in here, I got hit. I was like, man, I'm tingling right now.
Yeah.
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 It's potent energy in here. I
Yeah,
love
no
it.
doubt about it.
It's a vortex.
So, Casey, speaking about love, Casey, to me, you're like the embodiment of love. You're a very
Well, thank
powerful Moonai priest.
Yes, absolutely.
And actually, for those of you that may not know, Casey is what brought me into the Paqo tradition.
That's right.
It's a pretty unique story and things is how that all happened, and it's quite beautiful, and I love it.
Yeah, this was, I think, what was it, 2020?
Yeah,
Yeah, 2020, I think the end of 2020 or something like that. I don't know.
beginning.
Beginning. So I had apprenticed in the Paqo tradition after about, at the time, I think 13 years or so of working as a shamanic healer. Apprenticed in the Paqo tradition, and what it did is it just brought so much organization and structure to all of this power and information that I already had through all of my journeying and interacting with the spirits. And because I never had a human teacher before I found our teacher Zane, I had just learned directly from the spirits, which is very powerful. But as a human, it's very important to have sort of an organizational structure. That you can kind of pour all of that power and information into, and organizing it doesn't restrict it at all. In fact, I find that it really amplifies and empowers everything that we're doing. And so I found that tradition, and it really helped me so much. And I had been through a lot of chaos, which we might get into later, but I've been through a lot of chaos in my spiritual path, gaining access to huge amounts of power very quickly without any organization. And I saw you when I met you. I just saw him like, man, this guy is gaining access rapidly to a lot of power, like even more quickly than I did. And I'm like, he needs this organization or it can turn very chaotic for him. So I basically came up to you and I was like, dude, I'm like, listen, you need to join this year's apprenticeship. Like, I'll pay for it if I have to. Like, you have to do this. And so luckily he listened. I didn't have to pay for it, but
Yeah.
he listened to me, and he went. And so here we are now. Now you're in love, and you're a full-fledged Paqo, and you're spreading the truth, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems totally crazy and impossible to me because I'll never forget when you showed up. What you said to me. It was like in our first meeting we got together, and you just kind of sat there and you just didn't really say anything at first, and you're like, I don't know, man. This is just really coming through strong from spirit, and I just never really had this happen before. And I was like, what? And you're like, well, it's like they're telling me you're a Paqo or something, like, and not like a strong one. And I was like, no, man, I want to be a breathwork facilitator. That's what I want to be, which I still am. But yeah, it was just like how you said at that time, you had the awareness to come in and see, hey, man, your energy's growing really fast.
Yeah.
And you're going to need structure. And I was like, yeah, okay, like whatever kind of thing. But it did. It started happening. I started to feel kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
Things started to kind of shift. And that's when you're like, yep, you need to get into this apprenticeship. And you're like, I'll pay for it and all those things. I was like, I don't know, man. Let's see. And then pretty much snapped my fingers. And then Zane's like, okay, I'm going to give you this apprenticeship. I'm going to give you a scholarship to get in here. Like I couldn't say no. You know?
Yeah.
Like the way my reality was like, here, this is just going to happen so you don't say no.
Yeah. You were going down the path. You were going to be a Wim Hof instructor.
That's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And then right then is when my spirit guide started communicating to me and said, you don't want to do that. Like I was right there. I had signing these papers to take the final parts of the course.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I was reading, and it was saying, basically, I become part of Inner Fire. This company, Inner Fire. I'm not me anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, my spirit guide's like, you don't want to do that. I was like, what do you mean? That's what I want to do. No, don't do that. And then I found out later why, as it came out that Anam Hof, Wim Hof's son, actually owns the company. And like according to the other instructors and stuff, he's a total jerk to them and everything. And like there's kind of like an expose that happened in like the last year about that.
Oh,
like,
is there
it
really?
came out, yeah. And even Wim Hof came out. They like interviewed him. He's like, yeah, I don't agree with everything that's going on there, and hopefully we change. He doesn't even own the rights to his own name.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
his
wild.
son, his son's a business mind. So
Yeah.
he saw this beauty of what his father did because he was around for 35 years doing these things
Right.
before his son said, and they didn't even have like a relationship because there was separation in them growing up and everything.
Yeah.
While Wim Hof was out conquering the world with his breath and everything. So it wasn't like until later, like they don't really even have like a good relationship. Like, all these things kind of came forward in this reality and showing me like, hey, that's why you didn't want to do that.
That's so wild too, because like you said, Wim Hof's been around for what 35 years before he started blowing up, and he's so huge now. You know, so it's like his son came along and had no real relationship with him, and it was just like, oh, like jackpot. I can make this into money.
But at the same time, changing the world.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
both things
So-
are happening at once.
Spirit was working through him in a way to
Yeah.
bring that about, to bring all of this conscious change to the world. It's so fascinating.
Totally
How those
fascinating.
kinds of things work. I love it.
And your situation mirrors my situation completely.
Yeah, it's like it's another mirror. Like, and as soon as it started happening, I told Zane, he's like, "Isn't it amazing to watch someone grow just like you do?"
Yeah.
Like, isn't it amazing? Like, yeah, it's amazing how it trickles through. Like everything's starting to connect.
Yeah.
And now we've met more Kamaskas. There's more coming.
Do people watching, have you talked about what a Kamaska is?
I think you should do that. Good idea.
So, Kamaska translates literally from Quechua to lightning bolt. It means lightning, but it's used to describe someone who is a natural-born shaman or one who's chosen by the spirits to be a shaman. And oftentimes, in our case, we don't really get the choice so much. I mean, you always have a choice, but it's like the reason lightning bolt is the word for natural-born or spirit-chosen shaman. As they say in the Paqo tradition, if you are a Kamaska, if you're chosen by the spirits to be a Paqo shaman, and you ignore the calling over and over again, in Keros, people get struck by lightning. And they keep getting struck by lightning until they either die or they follow the path of the shaman. And now, in modern-day world, I don't think that usually comes in the form of physically being struck by lightning, but it comes in other metaphorical lightning strikes. You know, for me, it was ending up in the psych ward several times. That was my big lightning strike.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hey, if you can continue to ignore this and continue to end up in these places, or you can accept your reality and follow the path of the shaman." So Kamaska, natural-born shaman, one chosen by the spirits, and because anyone can become a Paqo, anyone can become a shaman, and it's just that, some people seek it out. They seek it out. They look for this, and they study and they train and they learn how to interact with the spirits, learn to develop relationships with the spirits, and they go that route of kind of developing their connection. And some of us, it's just kind of like something happens one day and boom, it's like we're just turned on. Like I was an atheist, so I guess I should just talk about my story then.
Yeah,
so
that's right where I was going to take you, Casey. I was like, Casey, how did it begin for you?
Yeah, so I grew up Catholic Christian, very strict Catholic Christian. My father was a pretty strict Christian, and he, I went to church and everything and didn't really question much about reality until I got to like middle school or just before middle school. And I specifically remember this one moment where we were in class and they gave us this exercise. It was in a religion class, which is the Catholic Christian class. And I remember on this thing, it was you have to write down a list. We were little kids, young. And so you have to write down a list of items that if Jesus showed up today and said, come with me, follow me to heaven, what are the things you couldn't live without? And so everyone's sitting there writing things down, and I'm sitting there, this is the person they've told us is our Lord and Savior and all this stuff. They've talked about this my whole life. Like, there's nothing I couldn't live without. I'd leave everything behind. So they go around, everyone's saying the things like, I couldn't live without soap. I couldn't live without my TV or my video games or this. And they get to me, and I'm like, there's nothing. And the teacher's like, well, there has to be something you can't live without. And I was like, no. Isn't that the point of this exercise? Like, there's nothing I wouldn't live without. And he's like, no, there has to be something. And I'm like, even the teacher, the one who I was looking up to teach me about this, has no idea what he's talking about. He doesn't even understand his own exercise. So that started me just questioning. Mm-hmm. Before that, I never really questioned reality much. And then I started to question more and more and more. So I got into high school and, used some psychedelics and other things like that, and a lot of different plant medicine, or not some plant medicine, some non-plant medicines. Mm-hmm. It was a very chaotic time, and I became an atheist. So I decided, I questioned my reality enough, came to the conclusion that, the only reason people have spiritual beliefs or, are Catholic or Buddhist or anything like this is because they are in denial of the fact that someday they're going to die and no longer exist. The whole, all religion to me was just like, okay, you're just in denial about the fact that someday you're going into oblivion. And so you come up with this idea of an afterlife and all of this stuff so that, it makes you feel more comfortable about, dying and life and all of that stuff. And I wasn't just an atheist that was like, okay, I have my beliefs, but I respect other people's. I would go around and start fights. I would argue with spiritual and religious people. And I'd be like, if you have any kind of spiritual belief whatsoever, you're an idiot, and I can prove why with science because I'm so smart. That's.
I've been there. Yeah,
that's who I was. Yeah,
I survived.
Yeah. But I went down that path, and so I at some point I'm like, okay, so there's no point to anything. I'm just going to die and go into oblivion. There's literally no point to anything I'm doing here. So what I do have while I'm here is my mind. So I want to discover all I can about the mind because everything is the mind. Everything's experienced through the mind, right? And so I started to study things like hypnosis. As I started out like, okay, how can I gain access to the power of the subconscious mind? Because, they always say, and I don't think these numbers are necessarily accurate or true in the way that they try and put it, but they would always say, the conscious mind holds like 5 to 10% of the power of your mind. All the rest of it is in the subconscious. So I'm like, how do I gain access to all that power? So I came across hypnosis, studied hypnosis, and learned a lot about going into trance and did some incredible things. I mean, I would guide people into trance using hypnosis techniques, and I literally would do things like make myself invisible to people. And so you go through and you stack you guide them deep into trance, and then you stack suggestions. So start out with a simple suggestion like your eyelids feel so heavy, it feels so good to keep them closed that even if you tried, you wouldn't want to open them. And so try for a second and you can't, and then okay, now stop. You can't even open your eyelids. And then you go from that to their arm being glued to the chair and they can't lift it even if they try. And then you stack bigger and bigger suggestions until their mind's willing to accept really wild stuff. And now you're not doing this against anyone's will. It's all they're agreeing to have a good time and play with their mind with you. So you can't. Hypnosis doesn't work to make people do things that they don't want to do.
Right. That's the misconception of the public due to Hollywood.
Yes, Hollywood. Exactly. Yeah. But I would literally, there was one suggestion where it's called a negative hallucination. So if you've ever been looking for your car keys and you run around and you're looking for them and you can't find them, and then someone picks them up and is like, is this them right here? And you're like, I know I looked there. So you actually did look there. It was just you were having a negative hallucination. That's the term for it in psychology. Negative hallucinations when you're looking directly at something but cannot see it. Whereas a positive hallucination in psychology would be looking and seeing something that other people can't see. So you make use of that phenomena that happens sometimes it's automatically or happens naturally or accidentally. And because it's something that happens within the subconscious mind, when you're in the trance state, you can use that and make it happen at will. So I would do this where someone would be looking, like you would be looking directly at me. I've guided you into trance, stack suggestions, and I'm literally invisible to you. And I could hold up a cup or something and it just looks like it's floating through midair. So I'm like, okay, so I'm already pretty deep into exploring the subconscious mind and pretty fascinated with it at this point. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of power here. There's so much power. So how do I go even deeper? How do I explore even more of the depths of my subconscious mind? So I came across lucid dreaming. So lucid dreaming, a lot of people are familiar with that. Back when I was researching it, there was very little information on it.
Way different now.
Yeah, very little information on anything spiritual.
It's because more people are capable now
Yes.
to the rise in consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into lucid dreaming, was practicing these methods. So one of the things in a lucid dream, to explain to anyone who doesn't know, is when you're in a dream while you're aware of the fact that you're in a dream, and then you can start to kind of take control and do whatever you want in the dream space.
Fly.
To a certain degree.
Whatever you want.
Yeah. So one of the methods for having lucid dreams is first you need to improve your dream recall. So remembering your dreams is actually a skill. A lot of people don't realize that. You can practice. If people say, oh, I just don't have any dreams, it's no, you just haven't developed the skill of dream recall yet. So what I would do is when I first started, I would drink a big glass of water right before bed, and then I would have to wake up to pee, and it would wake me up mid-dream, and then I'd write down a few notes about my dream, and then wake up a few more times throughout the night, write down notes, until I went to the point where I would remember one dream maybe every other month, to remembering sometimes 15 plus dreams a night. So that's the first step, and then I was doing these reality checks. So basically, throughout your waking life, in your waking life, you do these things to test to see whether or not you're actually in a dream, so that it becomes habit, so that you do that in the dream realm, and then you realize you're in a dream and become lucid. But what I was doing is I would do one thing in a dream. If you try and push your finger through your hand, it'll either go through or your hand stretches real weird. And you're like, okay, so I know I'm not in a dream. But when you're doing these checks, these reality checks in real life, you can't just be like, am I dreaming? No. Okay, moving on. You literally have to sit there in real life and be like, okay, how do I actually know this isn't a dream right now? And so I started questioning reality all the time. And that led to me being confused. So I was like, okay, how do I know? I would literally be in class at school and be like, okay, how do I know I'm not in a dream right now? I have no idea. I'm actually not sure if this is a dream or not. And so that got really intense for me. And there was one point where I was in my room, and I thought I went to sleep and got up in a dream, but I was actually just awake. And I was had all these cards laid out on the floor, and I was trying to change them and alter them, turn a card over, get it to change to a card at will. And my parents came into the room, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "This is a dream. I'm trying to change these cards. You're just a dream projection." And so they were very concerned about that.
Yeah.
And so they took me to the hospital.
Right, of course.
And so I went to the hospital. They took me to the psych.
How old were you at this point?
I think I was 14.
And how old were you when you first started deciding that you were going to go into your mind?
Yeah, about a year before that.
Okay.
So 13.
It's pretty young, man.
Yeah, I was young.
So you were hypnotizing people at 13.
Yes.
14.
Yeah. My
Wow.
classmates. I would do my classmates. Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Super cool. And we're back from our break.
So so I was saying where I left off was my parents walked into the room on me, flipping over the cards, took me to the hospital, and they took me to the psych ward. And so much going on. It was they were putting me on these medications that were suddenly causing insomnia, and I wouldn't sleep for a few days at a time, which caused even further
Hallucinations.
Like delusions and things.
What were your thoughts about it when they were like, Casey, we're going to take you to the hospital? Like, what did you think at that time?
I don't really remember. I think I remember wanting to go initially
Because you're kind of afraid.
I was like, I didn't know what was going on with my reality. I'm kind of like, okay, well, maybe the doctor, because, I was younger. Right. I didn't know. I'm like, okay, the doctor can tell me like what's going on. Maybe we can fix it, But I didn't really know. I was just in another world while being here. So anyway, so what they did, though, at one point is they ended up giving me this medication, Abilify, which I think it's like a sleep medication or an antidepressant or something like that, or maybe both. But I think it was Abilify. And it's one of these medications where, the commercials, they tell you, like, there's a 0.001% chance that it could kill you.
Yeah. Well, you're that guy.
I was that guy. So they gave me this medication, and what I remember was taking this. They gave it to me. I was laying down in my room in the psych ward. And I remember I started to feel my muscles, like, starting to, like, tighten up like this, and then my throat started to close up. And so I walked, like, out of the room, and just the last thing I remember was, like, looking at this nurse and just, like trying to make some sound, and then I collapsed on the ground. I woke up. I didn't wake up. So after I collapsed on the ground, next thing I remember is I'm floating in this giant void, this huge void space. And I was like, I just kind of knew. I'm like, I'm dead. So I was still an atheist at this point, and I was so convinced of my ideas about how there's nothing after you die that I was floating in this void space, and I asked to it. What I said was, I didn't ask, like, is there anything after this? I asked, so there's nothing after this, right? And I heard and felt this huge resounding no. And to me, what I describe it like now is like it was like the power of God hitting me with this energy of just like shattering how everything you've ever known and believed is like wrong. And like all your worldviews are like not true. And it just like, I got hit with this energy and it sent me down. I fell out of this void space into my body and like back. And I took a deep breath.
It's like a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, it was. And so then after that, I was still in the psych ward, and I was like seeing all this. I could feel this tingly stuff all throughout my body. I'm like, well, I don't know why my body's tingling, but then I noticed. I sat there and I'm like, I can take this tingly stuff in my body and I can concentrate it on the tip of my finger, and if I touch people, it shocks them. And I had no idea. I've never been introduced to the concept of spiritual energy or anything like that. So I literally thought I could control static electricity. Like I was like I was using telekinesis to control static electricity. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, this is pretty cool. I have a superpower. And then, so I was released from the psych ward, and they put me on heavy duty medications. Like I don't know if anyone's familiar with Seroquel, if anyone's heard of that, but I was on like the highest dose they're legally allowed to put a person on. So I was a complete zombie. And I was going through like school and stuff, and I was like failing all my classes. I'd be asleep all the time, and like I tried to hang out with my friends, and I'm just like a fucking zombie. I couldn't talk or like it was like just a shell of myself. I was like, okay, so I don't like this at all. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna take myself off. So I stopped taking the medication, just stopped without weaning. It's a highly addictive medication. I didn't know this at the time. Right. But I stopped taking it and then got really, really sick physically, stopped sleeping, started having really intense, what I now know are visions, but thought were hallucinations. I remember, I think, right before I got put back in the psych ward, I was over at a friend's house, and I was sitting in their basement, and they had this poster. It was kind of like a trippy poster. And I remember looking at it, and the Buddha came out of this poster. And it was like in purple energy Buddha. And the really interesting thing about this is that up until this point in my life, because again, these are different times. The internet wasn't what it is now and everything. And so like I had never actually seen a picture of the actual, like the Buddha in a skinny like Buddha form. I always thought the Buddha was that fat laughing guy. I thought that was the Buddha. And so, but I saw the skinny actual Buddha come through, and I knew it was the Buddha somehow. I'm like, oh, that's the Buddha. I just knew. And I was like, well, this is really, really trippy. So that started to happen. And then since I was having all these visions and seeing things, I thought I was like schizophrenic. And so they took me back to the psych ward because I told my parents I was like seeing things. And so I went back there, and so there's way too much to tell, and
I understand, yeah.
But a lot of stuff happened. So then after I was out of the psych ward, finally, I think there was 3 times total. After the last time, I was like, okay, it came through so strong. Spirits were like, don't take the medications they're trying to give you. They said there's these 2. You can take these 2. Don't take any. If they try to give you anything else, don't take any of these other medications. And like, this is sacred. The spirit, I could see the spirits that were coming through at this point and telling me what you're going through is sacred. It's an awakening. You're being called to the path of the shaman. They told me that. And so then I went and was on YouTube and I was researching and I was looking because they told me I was bipolar with psychosis.
Right.
And so I was looking that up too. And then I came across this series of videos called Am I Bipolar or Waking Up? And it was this guy who was diagnosed bipolar psychosis, but realized it was actually a spiritual awakening. And then he's helped like tons of people to also realize that. So I watched his whole video series on YouTube at the time. And I started to look into shamanism more. And I had a little book. I had a book called, I think it was Shamanism, the Ancient Art of Healing Through Connecting with the Cosmos, or something like that. And it was a small book, but it wasn't just like a book about information on shamanism. It was like a practical guide of like how you can start to journey. It was like how to start journeying and doing stuff like this. So I'm following along with this book, and the cool thing that would happen was I would have an experience of something. I would journey, have an experience, and then I would open the book to the next chapter, and it would be talking about the thing that I had already experienced.
That's Kamaska stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was really.
Synchronicities.
Oh yeah,
Synchronicity.
That was really cool. That stuff still happens to me all the time. But that was really cool. So that was like some of my first confirmation of like, hey, you're not crazy, you know.
So the book you were reading about shamanism, was it a particular practice? Was it?
It was mostly about shamanic journeying.
Okay, it didn't have like just like in general. It was like general shamanic practice.
Yeah, it was a woman who had studied with a bunch of different shamanic.
All right, so it's kind of her own thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, not Sandra Ingerman. She's no. I don't remember the name of the book.
I read The Way of the Shaman by Michael Harner, and that's very similar.
Yeah. So it was, that book was quite a big part of my unfolding. But so the interesting thing when I started journeying is I remembered that I used to do this as a little kid.
Right.
So I had a friend back in grade school. Like, we were little kids in grade school, and we used to lay down, go into trance and shamanic journey. And we called it, we were traveling to the spirit world. Yeah. But to us, we didn't really care if it was real or play pretend. Like, it didn't matter. We were just having fun.
Tapping into that mind's eye.
Yeah. So we would lay down and we would go on adventures. And then we'd come back, and sometimes we'd talk about experiencing the same things in these adventures too. So then when I rediscovered it as an adult, I was like, oh, I've already done this hundreds and hundreds of times. So it came very naturally. And so it was through journeying I started to meet my spirit family, my spirit guides, primarily. Well, the first was a serpent. I met the serpent guide, a snake. It was my first guide that I connected with. And then I, at some point, connected with these 4 angels, Sirthahe, Graham, Thrax, and Sigil. And they taught me a lot. In fact, so I had a huge aversion to Christianity because of my upbringing. And at one point, so the fact that I was connecting with angels at all is I was like, I don't know. Right. I don't know if I really like this or want this. And then at one point, they took me on a journey to the upper world. And I was in this room full of light, and they presented me with these wings. And they told me, these are yours, and we had to take them away from you, but if you want them back, we can give them back to you. And I didn't know what the significance was of that at the time, but I was like, I guess, sure. So come to find out later on that I am an angel incarnate, or what I call a member of the Alliance. So the Alliance, and I could literally talk for hours about the Alliance. I've dived pretty deep into the background of the Alliance and all of this, but the Alliance is a harmony faction that exists throughout the multiverse. It's the single largest organization in the multiverse. And they're actually the reason why we look like the way we do, and the why that like so many beings throughout the multiverse have the humanoid form, as that's due to the Alliance. But they're the single largest organization in the multiverse, and they're like a harmony faction. So their whole purpose is to maintain balance and harmony throughout the multiverse, which is infinite. So they have outposts in many not all of them, because that's impossible because the multiverse is infinite, but throughout many of the universes in the multiverse, they have outposts where they do all kinds of things. So to maintain harmony, that may involve performing healing. Maybe there's the leader of a planet who's very ill, and this if this person dies, it would be very bad for the balance of things. We may go and heal and help to save that person. Sometimes we may need to act as an ambassador. Maybe there's two races of beings that aren't quite getting along, and we need to come in and kind of act as ambassadors to come help and smooth things out between them. We may need to fight. Sometimes we're mercenaries. Sometimes there's an innocent race of being that's being savagely attacked by another race of beings, and we need to come through and kind of fight them off to help maintain balance. So it's literally anything you can think of in the name of maintaining balance and harmony in the universe is what we do, and I am one of those incarnate. And you are as well, and I know you are as well. I already know that about you, and I've had very little interaction with you already.
It's probably all Kamaskazar.
I've been doing a lot of healings in my dreams lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll pick up
For
And
sure.
I have vague recollection of what I actually did, but I do remember like bringing that healing back into this reality from that reality.
Like doing healings, receiving healings, or performing healings for others?
Both. Or
Yeah.
trading healing.
trading.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I've done a bunch of healings on others, and then brought that healing back into this reality for that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're doing the work of the Alliance here in the physical. Sometimes when I journey, I'll go and my guides will kind of give me the option. They'll be like, "Hey, do you want to take on a job right now?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure. What's the job? What's that?" So, okay, this race of planet. There's this in this universe. There's this planet, and there's these beings that need help with X, Y, Z. Do you want to do that right now? Like, you don't have to, but you can. I'm like, "Sure, I'm up for it. I'll go help out." So it's fun. It's never boring being in the
Yeah, I have interactions as well with them. After I started to begin to journey, I remember too that I journeyed. I'm starting to remember more and more as I continue on my line of what's going on. I remember more and more and more, and I can remember when I was a child and how I was connecting with spirits. This is kind of more recent. This came in. When I was about 3 years old, I remember being in a playroom in my basement now, and there was these like paintings, these textured paintings on the wall of like Sesame Street. It was Bert and Ernie, and Big Bird was another one. And spirits were talking to me through the paintings. They would become alive and talk to me, and it wasn't scary or anything. They were like telling me beautiful things. Like they were telling me that I'm a good boy and I'm a good being, and you're going to grow up to be something awesome. We love you. And they were so loving and beautiful to me, and I thought it was so great. And then I went and told my mother, and she just kind of at first brushed it off, was like, yeah, it's okay, whatever, like that's the way what parents typically do to little kids when they come to them with these stories that they think imagination, which is energy. But it was a little bit later, I kept having the interaction, and I talked to my mom about it, and her being of a religious ideology, she was like, well, those are demons, you want to stop doing that right away. And then I became afraid, and then when I remember them talking to me, and I'd run away, and they were like sad that I wouldn't talk to them anymore.
How terrible.
And then it like shut me off.
Yeah.
So
What an incredible control system they've placed.
no kidding.
So many of them too.
Yeah, we are the control system. We did it so that way we can grow into this.
Yeah.
So we can come into there. But yeah, I definitely have. After I started to come back into journeying, you opened that up for me. You've opened up so many doorways. Like it was just perfect. Even we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah.
We're getting there, I think.
Yeah.
So. You're talking about you became aware of the Alliance. How old were you at that point?
I want to say this was several years into my path, so I don't know exactly, but I would probably estimate I was around 17. Around there, something like that.
And what year is that? Do you know?
Okay,
we'd have to do the math backwards. So it's probably like early 2000s or something.
Yeah.
So somewhere. Well, what year did you graduate?
Don't remember. I do not think about time. I
understand that.
Yeah, I'm losing sense of time quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
So I guess the question would be, at that point, did you have any support system around you? Because it's not like it is now. There's so many more people who, we have Moshi and everything where people come, and that's why they come here, is to share their metaphysical, spiritual experiences and whatnot. Like, there was nothing of, even in the time that I've come through since like 2018, there was nobody there. Like, I couldn't find anybody. So.
Oh, yeah. So imagine early 2000s. I knew no one in person at all. And what I would do is I would go online and, nowadays there's Facebook groups and things where you can just look up spiritual awakening, and there's groups with thousands of people talking about this stuff. That didn't exist back then.
Right.
So what I would do is I would look and I would find these forums, which I don't know if you remember, forums back in the day. But I think they still exist.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I would go on these forums, and they'd be like about spirituality or whatever, and I would go on these chat groups. They'd have a chat box next to on the side of the forum, and I'd go in there. And there'd be like 10 people in there. 8 of them are crazy. One's pretty chill, and then one person actually has some good things to say.
It's still like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just described Reddit.
So I would just talk to these, and I learned a lot doing that.
Right.
That really helped out with a lot of stuff. And then it was, I don't know how old I was when this happened, but at some point I met my first human teacher, and she was only in my life teaching me for a year. Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot in that. And even then in the year, I think we met maybe a total of 10 times. Mm-hmm. But she was very powerful, very skilled with energy, also a member of the Alliance Incarnate, and remembered it and knew it. That was a really interesting story of how we met. So I was bored one day and I was playing with energy. At this point, so I'll tell this story first. So how I discovered I had the ability to heal was I was at Huntington Beach. And I could feel energy, could see it, was playing with it, all of this stuff, but I had never come across the concept that you could use energy to heal someone. Mm-hmm. I just never heard of that. I never thought of it. And then I was talking to this random guy I met at Huntington Beach. I would just strike up conversations with random people and talk about this stuff. So I was talking to this guy, and I was talking to him about energy, and he goes, "Oh yeah, my dad's a Reiki healer." And I go, "What's that? I've never heard of that." And he goes, "Well, you're talking about energy. They use that to heal people of pain and emotional stuff." And I, without thinking about it, I just said, "Oh, I can do that." And I was like, I don't know why I just said that. I was like, okay. And I looked at him, and I could see something and feel something in his knee. And I said, "You have pain in your right knee." And he goes, "Yeah, how did you know that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Stay still for a second." So I went and I reached in, I grabbed this big, long black thing, and I pulled it out and put it in the earth, and then filled it up with some light. And I said, "How does it feel?" And he bends down and stands up, and he goes, "There's no pain." And he starts jumping up and down. And he's like, "I haven't been able to do that since I was a kid." He's like, "I have Osgood-Schlatter's disease. And I can't, they're just permanently have bad knees, and I haven't been pain-free since I was a kid." Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. I'm like, I've discovered a pretty cool superpower. Yeah. So then I would go around and I would just do healings for all kinds of people. Just I would go up to people at the beach, or wherever I was staying at work. I think I was working as a lifeguard at the time. Yeah. And I would go up to people at work, and I'd just be like, "Hey, can I you have pain here? Can I heal you?" Just go up to any random person. Yeah. Because it was so, I'm like, I have this superpower. I want to play with this as much as possible. So I go all over the place doing that. And so one time I was up at Huntington Beach, and I saw these people dressed in cosplay outfits. One guy had a big cape and a cosplay outfit on, and I was like, "Oh, he looks like an interesting guy." So I went up to him. He had a couple of friends with him, and I started playing, showing him stuff with energy. I was like, "Close your eyes, hold your hands out." And then I'd send a beam of energy into his hand, and I'd be like, "Which hand feels tinglier?" And he'd be like, "This one." He'd open his eyes, and my finger would be there. And he's like, "Whoa!" He's like, "How the hell did you do that?" And so I followed him back to the big pavilion at Huntington Beach, and I didn't know it, but I was there on the post-Colossal Con meetup at Huntington Beach. So Colossal Con's one of the biggest anime and nerd conventions in the country. And this was after the Colossal Con, which takes place at Kalahari. A lot of people meet up afterwards since they're in the area. They meet up at Huntington Beach the day after it's over. And so I just happened to be there on the day. And so I was hanging around. And I found out that day that a lot of people who are into anime and stuff like that are very sensitive to energy. Right. They're more open because these concepts are kind of introduced in anime a lot. Mm-hmm. So I was going around and just playing and shooting energy at people and just playing, having a ball doing this. And little did I know the whole time there was someone watching me. Mm-hmm. Watching me do this. And And so I got chosen to do. There was like a role-playing game where you had to go off into the woods and guide people on an adventure. And the way that they determined the winner of who was going to be the leader was who had the best evil laugh. And at the time, I could do this really big, deep, evil laugh. And so I did that, and I won the contest. I'm like, okay, you can lead us on this quest. So I led everyone across the street and into this little patch of woods. And when I was there, I saw, and at the time, still not 100% sure at this point. I'm like, am I imagining these things or not? I still had doubts, a lot of doubts. And I saw this giant demon-looking thing. And I was like, all right, everybody, we're going to attack the demon in the woods. We need to fight it. And so everybody's running around just flailing these weapons at random. And one of the women that was there goes right up to this demon thing, takes her hand, shoots this huge flame, and it just like annihilates it. And I was like, did I just see that right? And I'm like, I still don't know if I'm imagining this. So as we're walking back to the other side of the beach where the pavilion was, she turns to me and she goes, good job at spotting that demon. And I was like, could you see it? And she's like, yeah, of course. It was huge. And I'm like, okay. This is the first human being I'd ever met in real life that could see or perceive this stuff other than myself. So I was pretty blown away by that. And then we're walking back, and I was just kind of in a daze. I was like, oh, there's other people like me that can do this. I'm like, wow. So I was just following her, and I was walking, and she does like this with her hand, and I see this purple flame. Like I saw it with my eyes, not just with the imagination eye, but I saw it with my physical eyes. And I saw this purple flame in her hand, and I just busted out laughing. And she's like, what's going on? And I said, I can see that. And she goes, the purple flame? And I'm like, yes. And so I was like, this is amazing. And so after that, throughout the night, we were like, she would play games with me. She'd be like, all right. She would say, she told me at one point, she's like, try to hit me. And I was like, punch you? And she's like, yeah, whatever you want. And I was like, okay. So I like threw a punch at her. She like really swiftly and easily deflects my fist and then just doesn't touch me, takes her other hand and does this and shoots energy at me, and it knocked me to my knees. And I was like, how the hell did you do that? That's amazing. She put her hand on my heart at one point, and it felt like there was like someone holding a torch, like a flame in front of my heart. It was like that hot. It was like her hand was cool. She went, and then it was this rush of intense heat. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I was like, can you please teach me? Like, I need you to teach me about this stuff. I can feel this. I can see this stuff. Please teach me. And she's like, all right, I'll teach you. And so another cool thing we did that night too, and we would do this from time to time. We would do this contest with energy where you'd hold your hands together like this, and you would try and push the other person's hand and try to push their body down just through the hands, just using energy alone. And she would always win at the time. She'd always. I'd be like, I'd come down and like be on my knees.
It's like Doctor Strange.
yeah. It's real life stuff like Doctor Strange for sure. So then we would meet up like every so often. I think it was like 10 times total, like I said, in about a year. And every time we'd get together, it would be like an intense training session, like learning energy control, learning how to work with energy, communication with spirits, things like this. And from there, I just I think she moved was the thing, and so she didn't live in the area anymore. And so I would just on my own, I would go off and journey, communicate with beings, members of the Alliance, and I received a lot of training from the Alliance, and it's mostly remembering what I already was trained to do in the Alliance prior to coming to Earth. But a lot of intensive training, and I was doing healings and all kinds of things, and then about, I don't know how many years ago now, maybe about 5 years ago now, something like that. I think it's about 5 years ago. My spirits were coming through really strong, and they're like, hey, it's time for you to find your human teacher. You need to find your like physical human teacher. And so those signs were coming through. They were telling me directly. I was watching all this media on TV and those programs about spirituality, and these spiritual masters would come on, and I'd be like, all right, I need to find someone. So I started looking. I went on my phone, and I looked up just holistic healing, I think, near me. And there's a couple of places I looked at. No, it doesn't resonate. And then there was this one website that popped up, and the guy listed as a shamanic healer on there. I was like, I've met him. This is Hank. And I met this guy like 10 years prior to this at Goddess Elite. I just walked in there and was talking to this guy about energy and all this stuff. And I was like, I recognize him. So I scheduled a session with him, and I had a shamanic healing session with him. It was really powerful, and I was like, all right, I want to learn more about this. Like, where did you train to become a shaman? And he said, well, my teacher comes into town every other year and does like a 6 or year-long apprenticeship. Like, he travels back and forth from here to Athens, where he lives, and he'd come up, and every other year he would do a year-long apprenticeship. And so it just happened to be that when I went there for that session, it was coming up in like 2 or 3 months, and I was like, oh, like, sign me up, I'm in. I don't care how much it costs. Like, I know I need to do this. So as soon as, and before the apprenticeship started, there were these spirit lodge things that Zane was holding, and there were like kind of just general practices, like shamanic practices that anyone can use, but you don't necessarily need to get involved in any tradition. And as soon as I met him, I saw his energy field before he even spoke. Huge, bright, powerful energy field, huge, powerful Paqo. And then as soon as I heard his voice and heard him talking, I was like, he's the guy. I'm like, this is the one I've been looking for my whole life. I know he's the one I've been looking for to teach me. And sure enough, he was. So I apprenticed in the Paqo tradition, and all of it was like, I was just remembering what I already knew from past lives. It came so easily and naturally to me, and it just, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, it took everything, all the power I had access to, all the things I already knew, organized them, and just elevated them to a whole new level. So I'm so grateful for that.
Same.
Yeah.
Don Zane Kerfman.
Don Zane Kerf, an amazing human being.
Yeah, so it was through Hank Settler, the sonic shaman, that you met him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Cool. And then Zane showed up in the reality, and then you started to apprentice the tradition. I can agree to that. It's like the same thing. Remember when it was happening, I would tell you, hey, man, that's so crazy. Like, I had interactions with my guides, and they showed me how to do this. Like, for instance, one of the most powerful ones was ancestral healing before it came into our apprenticeship. And then it shows up right after that. Like, it was...
Yeah.
So funny how all those things kind of align with each other in that same way.
That's my experience. You know, like certain religions, like the Catholic tradition and things, they tell you like you have to just have blind faith and like believe and like you know, don't look for proof. You know, you just need to have blind faith, and someday you'll be rewarded. Real spirituality, like spirit will prove these things to you over and over and over again. Spirit will give you so much proof that even if you're the biggest skeptic in the world, if you're open to actually receiving this stuff, then you'll have proof pounded into your head to the point where you'd have to be a complete idiot or in so much denial to have any doubt left whatsoever. And that was my experience, because even when I was having these experiences in the beginning, I had so much doubt around everything. I knew, like I knew it was real. I had evidence, like a lot of evidence that this was real, but I still had doubt. And Spirit was like, oh, you still have doubt? Well, here's my proof. Here's my proof. Here's my proof. Still? Okay, here's more. Undeniable experience after undeniable experience after undeniable experience. And they still happen all the time to this day.
Yeah, eliminating all question, all doubt. Because I think it's natural for the ego mind to create doubt. I mean, it definitely happens along my path sometimes where the ego mind will create doubt. But it's perfect, because when that shows up, that trigger shows me part of me that I haven't processed yet.
Yeah, and it's just doing its job. It's trying to keep us safe here in the physical world. Because if you believed every suggestion that every human was telling you, then you'd... It wouldn't go well.
You would run awry.
Yeah.
My most powerful experience like that was actually at we had breath work here, and I was with my two main guides walking through a forest, and all of a sudden this portal opened in the ground, and Weskar Inca popped his head up and grabbed me by the ankle and yanked me into the lower world.
Oh yeah!
And I facilitated a soul retrieval. A friend of mine, she lost twins, and I was tasked with going and retrieving the twins' souls, and then I delivered them to her daughter-in-law, who was also pregnant with twins.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Rebirth.
Powerful, man.
Yeah, but
That's really
I mean,
powerful.
I didn't even know who Weskar Inca was when it happened.
Yeah.
It just, this guy popped up with bright white eyes and just grabbed me by the ankle.
Does he have a headdress when he shows up for you? Does he have this kind of headdress type thing on?
He's got like leaves, almost like a wreath of leaves on his head.
Yeah, he's got this cool looking. He's got this cool looking headdress for me.
I see him in different forms. So the first time I saw him, he was in a Native American form riding a buffalo.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was when we during our initiations during the Hatan Karpai. I saw him at one of the sites we went to. That was my first real interaction because I had a lot of resistance at first of working in the lower world when I first was turning on because of the religious indoctrinations of my mother.
Like hell.
Yeah, I was like, "What do you mean I got to work with serpent energy? Isn't that bad?"
He initially showed up as like it was like a combination of Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I see him like
and
that
like,
too.
With like South American dress on.
Yeah.
He's always like 8 feet tall for me when I go visit him in the lower world. When I visit him
he's
in the lower world, and I meet him almost exclusively in the lower world by the River of Transformation.
Same.
It's always where I meet him, and he's always like 8 feet tall, like what I would think in this reality is like 8 feet tall, and he doesn't ever use his mouth to talk to me. Mm-hmm. Just talks to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Most if I pay attention, some spirits do use their mouths to talk, but most don't.
Most don't. Some do.
Yeah, some do.
And then usually for me, it's a language I don't know, and they'll be speaking to me in a language that my concept mind doesn't know, but my spirit mind does.
Yeah, so and then you can translate it into English.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the feelings translate into the thought that
Yes.
creates the picture.
Precisely.
Instead of the words, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's been an amazing adventure, and so I'm just super happy to be here. I want to talk about manifestation a bit. If that's
Please do.
Yeah, please.
So I came across at one point. I'm leaving out one of my other human teachers, and that was this guy who was the head of. It was called the Avatar Energy Mastery Institute. Don't ask me what year or how many years ago or how old I was. I don't remember. But it was this online spirituality, like metaphysical school, basically. And he would teach all kinds of things from like how to do telekinesis to like astral travel to like healing and like and manifestation and all kinds of things. So I signed up for the course because I was really interested in learning telekinesis because ever since I was a kid, the most reoccurring theme in my dreams, even before I was awake, was the ability to use telekinesis in my dream, and I still do to this day. I discover the ability to like levitate things, push and pull things with telekinesis, and so I'm like, I know it's possible because I can use energy, and I've had
MK Ultra proved that.
And I actually
MK Ultra was a set of experiments held by the CIA where they proved that telekinesis is powerful or capable. It can actually happen, as well as like remote viewing.
Oh yeah, I know.
Coming out into your spirit body,
LSD
astral travel.
To try to control people's minds.
Yeah.
Charles Manson was that whole setup was all part of MK Ultra.
Was it really?
Yeah, he was a CIA.
As government
Really?
experiments.
Yeah, okay.
They still use remote viewers now.
I know. Yeah, I met someone who's I was working with her at a telemarketing company at one point. I was working at this telemarketing company, and this woman's husband was a military trained psychic, and he said like he's out of service. But then he would like, because of his training, all these things would spontaneously happen. I think she said like a week or like a year or something like that, a few months, week, year, before 9/11. He woke up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, and he's like, whatever the year was, 9/11 date. And then you have the specific time, too. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, something really bad is going to happen. It's going to change the country. And sure enough, it was the same date. Like,
Yeah.
But this was, so there are for sure. I've literally met someone who was married to a military trained psychic.
Yeah. I mean, telekinesis, I think, for the conditioned mind is just hard to understand until you begin to realize the quantum field, understanding that you're not in a field of living energy. You are the living energy. So when you're moving something, it's you that's moving.
Exactly.
And then it takes me back to the Matrix. There is no spoon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
I love that.
It means all the
Matrix is
same
such
thing.
a great movie.
Oh yeah, it's like a documentary. It's just a perspective of how someone perceives it. Like, but it makes total sense when you feel the energy of it and what it is. Like, I totally thought like telekinesis was something impossible or made up until I began to see, sense, and feel energy around me.
And then I introduced you to practicing with the side wheel.
Yeah. I still practice with it.
Yeah,
I still use it. Yeah.
We have paper and stuff and a needle at home, and I haven't gotten around to making it yet, but I want to get back into training with.
Yeah, because that's what it does. It trains you to be able to connect into the field, because it's just like any other neural connection. We've been tricked into thinking our nervous system ends at our skin.
Right.
However, it does not. And those of us that see energy, we know that's not true.
Yeah.
So then we start to learn, and how does that happen? Through repetition. repetition, because lots of people are like, oh, I'm going to try telekinesis, and they sit there at the side wheel for 10 minutes like, oh, it doesn't work is
Right.
what it is. Listen,
I
man,
sat at the
how long
side-
did it take you to learn how to walk?
Right.
You know?
I sat at the side wheel for hours and hours every day for 5 days before I got it to move the first time. And then it was like real hit or miss. And then I got to the point of continued practice where I could just start it spinning and stop it like at will. Like, okay, start, stop, reverse. I got really good at it at one point.
Oh, cool.
And then pendulums. I was really good at swinging pendulums.
Yeah,
as
I'm
well.
really good at pendulums now.
Yeah, pendulums are fun. I'd sit there and I'd have it hanging on something, and I'd sit there and
I use it in healings. I have a pendulum show me where blockages are in people's bodies sometimes, and it'll start swinging, and then I'll remove the hoocha, and then it starts swinging lengthwise, like it's showing me flow. Really cool tool. I really like using pendulums.
yeah, pendulums are an amazing tool. Another part of my story I'm remembering because of this. How I got into, again, I already had my awakening, had experiences with energy, didn't know what it was. And I said how I thought I was controlling static electricity, right? How I came to know what energy was and then start to pursue it, I was studying at a Zendo. So at the time, I didn't know, like where to go to meet other people or to study about spirituality. So I just think I typed into Google like meditation near me, and Cloudwater Zendo popped up. They're based, they're in like Cleveland somewhere, but it's a Zen meditation center, and I went there and I was meditating with them for months and months and months, and at one point they would do qigong and they would talk about qi a lot, and I didn't understand it. So at one point I stayed after the meditation to talk to the teacher, and I was having this conversation with him. And I was like, hey, I'm like, you're always talking about chi. You say chi is energy, but what do you mean by chi is energy? Like, is it like electric energy? Is it kinetic energy? Like, what kind of energy? I don't really understand. And so as I'm asking all these questions, he just casually takes this little Buddha necklace off that he has, holds it straight, takes his hand, makes this tiny little gesture, and it goes from straight down to woof, all the way around the other side of his hand. Like, it wasn't like he built
what's
up.
that?
It wasn't like he went up and built up momentum and got it to swing around. It went from here to a little gesture around the other side. And I was like,
Wow.
I just opened my mouth and I'm like, that's telekinesis. And he goes, it's chi. And then he takes it over. And if you've ever had like
You know what rhymes with chi?
Me?
Pee.
Pee?
I have an overactive bladder today. And here we are back. Hi, we're back. We were talking about chi, and then I had to pee. And so now we're back. And you're talking about Cloudwater Zendo,
Yeah.
the Shifu? Is that what?
Shifu Ying Fa.
Shifu Ying Fa.
Shifu means teacher, and then
Right.
his name is Ying Fa.
For those who don't know what chi is, could you tell us what chi means?
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm sitting there. Well, chi is it's spiritual energy. It literally just means energy.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, I think I was telling.
Yeah, it was like, what was it, a necklace or something?
He had this little Buddha necklace, and so he takes his hand, makes that little gesture, and it flipped around. So I was talking about that. The other thing he did, if you've ever had a magnet on the end of a string, and then you put it around a repelling magnet, it will just like rapidly spin really fast around the repelling magnet. So he took the necklace over his hand, and it was doing that, like not just spinning, but like it was on a repelling magnet over his palm. And
Wow.
I'm like, this is telekinesis. And he goes, it's just chi.
Yeah.
There's chi in it. Yeah. So
You're like, neat. Manifestation is where you were heading before
Yeah.
we got into Cloudwater Zendo.
but so anyway, so that experience after that, I was like, okay, I am committing my life to figure, because this is incredible. This is real life superpowers that I was told this stuff is all false. I believed this was all impossible my whole life. I was told none of this is real. It's all mumbo jumbo, and I'm now being given real world proof that it exists. So I need to like dedicate myself to really like learning as much as I can about that. So years and years later, I'm attending the Avatar Energy Mastery Institute, and the reason I got on that tangent was because he teaches telekinesis. It's one of the things that got me into it. I was watching videos of people doing telekinesis, and they were like, I learned at Avatar Energy Mastery Institute. And so I attended this online program, and he taught all kinds of things, but one of the things that he taught was, he called it reality creating, which was just a specific system for manifestation, for manifesting things. And manifestation is, using intent and imagination to make things that you desire physically show up here in the physical world.
Matching frequency.
Yes. And so So I've done literally every single thing that I've really put my energy towards and used methods to try and manifest has come into being.
Same.
Every single thing.
I agree.
Without fail. Some have taken years and years, but they have all
Time,
come true.
whatever.
Yeah. So this is part of what got me into the Paqo Kuna tradition as well. One of the pieces to this puzzle is I was driving on the way to the beach on Easter Sunday, and it was Easter. My parents went off. They knew at this point I was no longer a Christian, so I didn't bother going to the Easter gatherings with my family anymore. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go to the beach. It was a relatively nice day, but still kind of cool. So not a day at that time of the year. Not a lot of people are going to the beach, But I said, I'm going to go up there. And as I was up there, I was like, I'm going to practice this reality creating technique that I'm learning in my course. So I was doing this, and it's basically you go into like with your muhukoya. He didn't call it that, but he called it your God spark.
God spark?
Yeah.
Instead of Inca seed?
Yeah, yeah. So you go
Kind of
into
mean the same
muhukoya,
thing, right?
And from there, you build up a charge, and you send out waves of energy and intent to manifest what you're going to manifest. You see it going out to the furthest edges of the multiverse and then reverberating back. And so I was doing this, and I said, okay, I'm going to go to the beach, and when I get there, I'm going to meet someone who's energy sensitive that I can practice energy with, someone who's very energy sensitive that I can practice this stuff with. And I was driving out, I was like, you know what, and why not a pretty girl as well? Why not it be like a beautiful woman? So make it a beautiful woman as well. While I'm at it, I might as well make it a beautiful woman. So I'm driving up there, and then I get there, and like I have full belief that this is reality. This has already happened, like full belief that it exists. And I got there, so I'm looking, and I'm looking at people. I'm like, is that her? I'm like, all right, no, probably not. Is that just forget about it. All right, it's fine. I don't need to worry about it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to enjoy my walk at the beach. So I walk down to the beach, and on one of these piers, I see, those lanterns people light with a candle in them, and like the lanterns float up into the sky. I saw one of those go off at the end of the beach. And I immediately I knew that was a sign, and I was supposed to go over to them and talk to them. And as I'm getting closer, I can see there's this guy and this beautiful woman. And I just went up to them, and I was like, hey, how's it going? Good, how are you? And I just said, that would be a beautiful healing exercise. And she goes, yeah, it would. You just put all of your like heaviness into the balloon and just watch it float away. And she's like, yeah, that would be amazing. And I go, I'm an energy healer. And she goes, I am too. And my jaw just like dropped. I was
Enter Leela Willow.
Yes, Leela Willow. This is Leela Willow that I manifested. And I was like, wow. I'm like, this is. So
Yeah, she's a
know
very
her
magical being.
I know her from Instagram. I don't know if I've met her.
Yeah, Willow, she's the jam. She's a very magical being.
But I mean, Easter Sunday, driving to the beach, not only someone who's energy sensitive that wants to practice energy as an energy healer, but is also beautiful. All those things.
Yeah.
She was there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I did this for weeks and weeks and then met her. I literally did it on the way to the beach, and she was there. It was incredible. So I met her.
Time means nothing. The frequency is what matters.
Yeah, for sure. So I connected with her a few times, and then like totally lost touch with her for years, and then reconnected. And I was trying to figure out a way to actually do energy healing for a living, but I didn't know how to make that happen. So I should say, so prior to this one, also, I've been manifesting out there that I'm going to be an energy healer. I'm going to do shamanic healing for a living. And that I wanted to have a quiet apartment in the suburbs. Those were like two big things that I was trying to manifest in my life. And so I met her. I didn't know how to make it happen because there was no places you could go at the time, at least, aren't really still, where you can just go and be like, hey, I want to work here as an energy healer, and then they find clients for you. And all. You have to build your own business from the ground up. And I did at the time, I was like, I don't have the financial means or the know-how to do that. And so I didn't know what to do. So I connected with, and I was putting waves out there that I want to do this for a living. Connected with Willow. She comes over and she goes, hey, can my boyfriend come over? He's a really cool dude, knows a lot about like shamanism and energy healing. I'm like, sure, that's awesome. So he comes over and I get to talking to him, and he tells me he's going to school for massage therapy. And he said that massage therapy can be a great way to get into energy healing because there's places you can work that you can start to get clients, and you can start to talk to them. These people who may not be familiar with energy healing, you can talk to them about energy healing, and then convert them into energy healing clients. And I was like, that sounds like a great way to get started. I'm still, even until I get to that point where I'm doing healing full time, I'm still doing healing through physical touch. I'm like, that doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I met him because I met her. I met him and then became a massage therapist. Went to massage therapy school, got my license. I'm licensed by the state of Ohio. I have a medical license to be a massage therapist. And then when I was in massage therapy school, they had us. One of our teachers was very spiritual, and so she taught us a few things. She was even having us like practice to see auras and things like that. They teach that in a medical and massage therapy school, which I think is pretty fucking awesome. Yeah. So she had us do a manifestation like board where she had like 5 years. So in 1 year, where do you want to be with massage therapy? Like, and this is like to manifest this. In 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, we're doing a manifestation board of what you're going to experience. And so like year 1, I said, get my license. I'm going to work at Breathe, which is a place right by my house where I know, it's called Breathe too, right? So this place right by my house where I knew there was like, this is where Brian worked, Leela's boyfriend at the time. He worked there, and I'm like, he works there. Like, I want to work around other spiritual people and do energy healing. So year 1, I wanted to do that, and then throughout the years, it was like, I don't remember all the things I said, but I wanted to then work at a chiropractor's office. I want to get a job at a chiropractor's office to get experience in a more medical setting. And then I wanted to build up enough of a clientele to where I could eventually go off and just do shamanic healing full time. So this was all on my manifestation board, and all of those things happened. So before I even had my medical license, I was working in Breathe. I got hired there before I had my license. So I was allowed to do energy healing and relaxation massage. So I was doing that. And then that place went out of business. And then worked at a few other massage therapy places, then got the job at the chiropractor's office, built up a good clientele. And then when I was starting to do more and more energy healing while I was working at the chiropractor's office, just over time, more of my clients were converting to shamanic healing clients. But then what really changed everything was COVID. So COVID hit, and they shut down massage therapy. Another manifestation thing was that I wasn't worried about COVID. I was worried about people like blaming me for giving them COVID and like losing my medical license for that. So I didn't want to go in until things got a little more cleared up. I was like, I don't really want to see clients right now for massage therapy. But I didn't want to like tell the chiropractor dude that, because he was like, we're staying open until they tell us we have to close. And I'm like, all right. So I was like, I don't want to have to tell him, like I could. I have the freedom to, because I'm an independent contractor. But I'd rather like the governor just shut it down for a while. And so I sat there, and it was like, okay, I have to either go into work tomorrow and tell him that I'm not seeing clients, or like the governor is going to shut it down for the whole state. So I sat there, and I was doing manifestation techniques. I'm like, tomorrow, Governor DeWine's going to come on the TV, and he's going to say that massage is shut down, because they were announcing like business after business every day. Yeah. And that day that I did that, he announced it.
Dun dun dun.
So then I'm sitting there, and I didn't know it was going to last. It was like months that we couldn't do massage. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, so now I have no form of income. So I'm like, I need to figure out. So I'm like, okay, I want to start. So at the time I was bored also. I would go on these Facebook groups, and I was just doing healings and readings, like trading them with people just for fun, because I like to do it. And I kept having these people do this, and they're like, dude, you're really good at this.
And
like,
it's training you.
Yeah, it was. It was training. And they were like, you know, like, you're really, like, you should be charging money. Like, you're too good to be on these free groups, man. You need to charge money for what you're doing. You're really good. And I'm like, yeah, I should. And so then I was trading a reading with someone. He gave me this astrology reading, and I was taught. He's like, "What is there anything you have questions you have based on where your charts are right now?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to know like when would be a good time to start to like transition into building my energy healing business." And he looks at my chart, and he's like today. And I'm like,
now.
I'm like, today. And he's like, yeah, like right now is like a really good time based on your planets. And I'm like, okay, all right, I guess I'll do it. So I sit there, and I'm like, how do I do this? I'm sitting, I went into meditation, and my guides are like, do a live stream and do readings and healings. And I was like, I don't know how to do a live stream. I've never live streamed anything before in my life. I'm like, they're like, just figure it out. Just do it. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll try this. So I went on. I figured out how to stream, set up my stream, did my first ever stream, had all these people show up, and loved it. And I had like 3 people message me right after my very first stream, and they're like, "Hey, how much is the full session?" And I'm like,
This is it.
I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
I got to figure out how to do this online. And like, okay, this is it. So that was really the starting point, and from there, that's where I am now. I do shamanic healing mostly virtually for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And you taught me how to do it.
I did.
That's what it was. You taught me how to stream, because when I first started, I do streams now 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Besides this, and that's where it came from, because that's that shamanic training. It's like. We should talk about how we met. How do we meet, Casey? How'd that happen?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So this was at the time I was trying to build up my YouTube channel. I had the YouTube channel I was streaming to. There's a perfect transition into that. Perfect timing. So I was trying to build up the YouTube channel, and so I was just looking up like different spiritual people's YouTube channel, and then like sending out messages like, "Hey, I love your channel. Like I'd love for you to see what I do and see if it resonates, and if we could like collaborate and do a video together." And so no one reached out back to me except for the certified health nut,
Troy Casey. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Troy Casey reached out back to me, and so it was like I messaged him, and then I woke up one morning, and it was like right when I woke up, the message was there from him, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go on like this morning and do one like right now?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Mm-hmm. And backstory, we'll go back to the first episode where I talk about how I get into breath work. It was this guy, Troy Casey, that showed up on a YouTube video when I was studying about DMT, about dimethyltryptamine, and I started to learn about how you could use your breath to open up your own DMT, and that's where this Tarzan-looking man from California showed up, and he started breathing on the beach, and that's kind of where I started into breath work and what created this connection.
Yeah. So that same guy messaged me and was like, "Hey, can you do a live stream right now?" And so I hopped on and I did some healing, some physical healing for him. He had a problem with his shoulder or back or something, and I was doing healing for him. He was really stubborn. Also, he was really up in his.
He was, yeah.
But I got him from like 8 out of 10 pain down to like a 1 or 2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
Well, I watched it, and that was the first time I actually could sense energy remotely.
Yeah.
Like I had an energetic awareness. I couldn't see or didn't know I could see yet, but I could like sort of see, like I knew something. I watched that and I was just kind of like, wow,
yeah,
what am I seeing here? And I never watched his live streams, and just that morning, it was after my meditation, I was clicking through Facebook, and then Troy Casey and this live stream pops up, and I look here, and then there's this red-bearded guy. At the time, he had like a bald head.
Yeah,
and I was like, this guy, I was like, look at this guy. What's going on? And then you guys start to interact, and you started to facilitate healing. I'm watching you talk to him. I'm watching the way the words are flowing. I'm watching the way everything's kind of happening. And I was like, wow, that's the first time I could feel energy remotely.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he starts the live stream, or at some point, maybe in the middle of it or something. He's like, "Hey, where are you guys tuning in from?" And then Tony comments, and he's like, "Westlake, Ohio." And I saw it, and I was like, "Hey, I'm in Rocky River."
Yeah,
I said that on the last one. Like,
that's a neighboring city. We're like 7 minutes apart.
We're literally, like not even like 6 minutes. We're like 6 minutes away from each other. And so I'm like, "Oh, what are the odds?" I'm like, "I grew up in Westlake."
Yeah, like right around the corner from where I live.
I did. I grew up right around the corner from you. Yeah, and so then you reached out to me after the live stream, because you saw me on there and everything, and I said I was in Rocky River.
Yeah.
So you reached out, you messaged me. I thought you were African American.
Yeah. Well, I'm 7%.
So like I was like, "Oh, cool, it's cool. Black dude wants to hang out with me from Rocky River and like hang out and do energy stuff. I'm like, this is sweet."
I think you said, "Who is this beautiful ebony being?" No? I had a pretty. It was my profile picture too was like midsummer, and I tanned really well, so I was pretty dark in the picture too. Other people have told me that too when they see the picture. Plus, I have like a really kind of like curly beard.
Yeah.
That's happened before.
So we were messaging back and forth on Facebook for like a week or so, and then you're like, "Hey, do you want to come over?" And
yeah.
So yeah,
let's do some breath work, man. I want to experience you and your energy. I wanted to know more. I saw something, and I was early. I didn't have like a relationship with my guidance yet, but I, for a long time up until then, because that was post-healing for me and everything with the lungs and all that stuff, I had a connection. I just wasn't really aware of it yet, and that was just like the next phase, the next step. Of course, it's Troy Casey, the first guy that shows me how to breathe, and then this other guy shows up. Hey, his name has Casey in it too.
Yeah, right.
What does that mean? And then he it just all these signs showed up, the synchronicity. So I was like, and he's just down the street. I need to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, come on over. Let's do some breath work.
Yeah. So I came over and we were talking. Immediately, the energy was so intense and powerful. And I'm like, I know this guy.
Yeah, we both said that. You walked in my front door, and we were like, we didn't say nothing right at that second, but we were both within minutes. We were like, I'm aware that I know you from outside of here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, for sure. And so then at one point I think you guided us through a beautiful round of breath work and your
Well, before that, you gave us some tricks. You were
I thought
showing
this
us.
was after the breath work.
This was before the breath
before?
work.
Okay.
This is before the breath work. In the reality I observed. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying your reality's wrong
Right.
because I know too much now to ever doubt any realities. There's all
Right.
these possibilities and changes. And the reality that I observed, you came in and the first thing you showed me and Mary was you had us get a bottle. You said, get a bottle that's unopened of something, sauce
Yes.
or something.
Love this story.
And I think it was like a dressing or something. I've never tried before. I didn't know what it smelled like or tastes like or anything. You're like, that's perfect. I was like, of course it is. And so you sat there, and then what you did is I watched you absorb the energy, absorb like a frequency from the bottle, and then you put your hand on my head and shot it into my pineal gland.
Yeah.
And I started to, and you're like, just go ahead, just smell the air. Just allow yourself to take it in. And I had this very faint smell, like vinegar and something else. And I was like, yeah, I definitely smell something. And then he did it to Mary too. And then we opened up the bottle and smelled it. I was like, damn, that's it. And you're like, yeah, isn't that crazy? Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, because this is all energy. Even smells, everything. It's all energy. So that was cool. That was their introduction.
Yeah, you were teaching me. That's why, that's why we manifest each other. You were there to help me learn. And it was like,
Yeah.
it's happening so quickly.
Yeah, and then we were in the garage, and we were playing with creating balls of energy.
That was another day.
That was another day.
Yeah, that was another day. That was the day you healed Mary's knee.
Yeah, yes, that was their first experience with me healing them.
Yeah. The first experience was just breath work. That's when we did breath work, and I was already very energy sensitive to feel and tone. And that's during the breath work, I could feel your arm come around me, an energetic arm like come around me and like hold me.
I did. I had the intention. I was laying with my arms like this on the ground,
Yeah.
and I had the intention to reach out to both of you.
Yeah, I could feel it, and I was telling you, I feel you touching me. I can feel that.
Yeah.
And then we just sat there and we just talked for a while, and then you were telling me more about the Paqo tradition and what it is and what it means and all these things, telling me about what you know about it, telling me, basically a lot of this story you were telling me as we were starting to learn each other, what was going on. And then we hung out a few times after that, and then that was the one you're talking about. Go ahead, talk about that when we started. This is when you taught me, what I learned from you that day is that my imagination isn't false.
Yes.
You taught me that trick that now I fully understand and try to help other people understand.
Yeah.
Is that the frequency of your mind is actually your connection to what we call now kanchai, or unmanifested light, the ability to bring unmanifested light into the manifested light.
Even simpler than that, the imagination is the tool through which we perceive reality.
Yeah.
And create it at the same time. Yeah. So I did a healing for Mary's knee. She had.
We did the ball first.
Oh,
The ball. We did the energy ball.
So I'm sitting there. So what I have people do is you can create a ball of pure spiritual energy. So I did that, and then I handed it to them. And
Yeah, and we did this because I said I can hear it and I can feel it, I can smell it. I have all sensation of energy, but I can't see it, is what I said. He's like, oh, sure you can. And I know you can see. I was like, okay, well, if you say so. And that's when he started making the energy ball.
Yeah, and then I would I think I was holding it or something, or had you hold it or something. And I was like, okay, what color is this? And you're like, I don't know, I can't see. And I'm like, just imagine, just make it up.
Right.
What color is it? And you're like, blue. And I'm like, yep, I'm seeing the same color. Okay, I'm going to change it. Same thing, just imagine what color it is again. And you're like, green. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to see the same thing. And and then we were going back and forth. And we were just tossing this ball of
was
fun,
fun,
back and
man.
forth. So we were throwing it. And every time you would grab it, it would feel even more tingly and heavier. Because it would pick up energy every time you tossed it. So we were just playing with these energy balls for an hour.
Yeah. And then it was like a miracle. In that moment from that day, I could see.
Yeah.
I mean, it continues to get more acute and stronger as I go along. But that was the first day that I had full awareness that, wow, I can actually see, and my imagination is reality.
Yes. Yeah. That's again, same thing with you. That's one of the, when I have people apprentice under me, I teach them.
Yeah.
Based on my 15 plus years of experience as a shaman.
The ball was blue in your hand.
It was, yeah. He was holding a blue ball. Yeah, it was. The whole time I had it there blue. Yeah. Love that stuff.
So Mary had a torn meniscus that she
Yeah.
was ailing with for probably 2 years up until that time, and she was really just babying it, and it was bothering her. And she went to the doctor, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll try to give you some rehab or whatever, but you may need surgery."
Yeah, so she somehow mentioned, I don't remember how, or maybe I even asked if she had it.
You're like, "Hey, do you guys want to do some healing?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
yeah.
good."
So I did. I think it was about 3, maybe 5 minutes of healing, and the pain in her knee was completely gone, and she just started crying.
Well,
It was so beautiful.
for my awareness, it was I could see the energy build up in space, and then I saw you pluck something out of her knee, because this was after the exercise. It's like it all worked out perfectly. First, you showed me how to see energy, then you taught me how to see hucha. All in the same time, and I'm like, wow, he's helping me remember all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I watched you pull the hooch out of her knee, and then I watched her kind of jolt and just drop into tears.
Yeah.
Because she was saying that the knee bothers her, but the way she was sitting didn't hurt. And you're like, I want you to sit in a way that's uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
And she sat like Indian style, like cross-legged, and then she was like, yeah, it's probably like a 5 or 6 right now. And you're like, okay. Took it right out of there, and she just started crying and has never had a problem with the knee since. Like some minor things, but then she learned about balance training and helped to increase blood flow and everything in the knee. But that changed everything right there in that moment.
Yeah. I love it. This is why, man. It never gets old.
No,
and it never gets boring. Still every time. I mean, I've done thousands and thousands of, thousands of physical healings, mental, emotional healings, and every single time, I'm still just like, this is the coolest thing ever.
It's totally the coolest thing ever.
It's so amazing. I love it.
It's like, what else is possible? What else can we do? Especially as we come together as a community and, we put all of our capability and power together. What can we do?
Yeah, man.
Anything.
The more
Limitless.
Yeah, it's because the whole thing is Earth is an amnesiac planet. So this is why when we're born here, we don't remember everything or who we are and where we come from in spirit. Is the way this planet works, the grid is set up that when you enter into the physical body, you're put in a separate distorted reality bubble from the rest of the multiverse. You're given your own little distorted reality bubble, and part of the programming in that is that it temporarily cuts you off from your memory. So it's as though you're experiencing life for the first time, and that's why there's so many humans on the planet, and that's why so many beings come to be incarnate here. There's also a big portal right outside of our solar system, and it's kind of like beings use this portal to get to other universes, other places very far away. So think of it as like Hopkins International Airport or LAX, right? You may not be going to LA when you're going to LAX. You may just have to be stopping through there to get somewhere else, but you have to stop at this big terminal before you get to your destination. And so that's what this big portal outside of our solar system is like. So a lot of beings come through there. They go, oh, hey, there's this amnesiac planet on the way right there. And so imagine you're immortal. You've been around for more time than can even be counted, right? You've experienced all the sadness, all the joy, all the beauty, all the hatred, like everything. You've experienced so much of all of it. And someone goes, hey, you can hop into one of these bodies, take a ride, and it's as though you're experiencing life for the first time again. You're like, sign me up for that, man. That sounds amazing. And you may, people think, okay, why would I sign up for that? Like, I've experienced so much suffering. I was raped, like all these horrible things. The thing is, again, you're immortal.
Right.
Some of us have been around for billions, trillions, or even longer of years.
Yeah. As if time existed.
Right. And so, you've experienced everything. You may, as weird as it sounds, as fucked up as it sounds, you may be like, all right, I want a life where I have luxury and beauty and peace and all of this, and I want one where I've got it as hard as possible. I want to experience the most suffering possible just to see what it's like to experience that with fresh eyes, because it's going to be stimulus that helps my soul to grow. And so but that was something I was going to say about distorted. Oh yeah, you were talking about like what we can do, what's possible. So part of that, there are these morphic fields here that keep us from being able to do things like like levitate that pool table right now off of the ground. Or like when a spiritual being shows up, the reason why sometimes I see it different from you and you see it different and we can't all like have just a four-way conversation with this spirit is because if we could, if we didn't have these distorted reality bubbles that distort things for us, then as soon as that spiritual being shows up, someone goes, hey, I can see that. You go, oh, I can too. I can too. We're having a four-way conversation that spreads and it's no longer an amnesiac planet.
Right.
It no longer works that way. So
it negates the program.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep but the more of us that wake up, and remember and start to do things to break down these morphic fields, the more is possible here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, we're watching it happen.
Yes.
I feel like it's like we're observing it every day. Like, we stay in contact generally pretty often, and we seem to have similar experiences of going through things, our own personal healing, our own parts of our subconscious minds and blockages and everything come apart. And, it's really amazing to see that. I mean, I see that with David, challenges arising in the reality, which are actually opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
The hard part is not taking it personal.
Right.
The ego mind, because it tries to protect you, it takes it personal.
Yeah.
Is what it does, and creates a little bit of blockage there.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, like again, though, spirit gives you, so much proof around all of this stuff. Like, so Eris and I, my partner, we were hiking through the woods one day not too long ago, and I can't remember how it started. So we were walking, and I see this little spiritual being on like a cut down tree. He was like on the stump of a cut down tree. And it was this little being. To me, he kind of looked like Dobby from Harry Potter, only like cuter and smaller, and not quite like that, but it was the closest thing I could
Was this
relate
at Rocky
to.
River?
Yeah, Rocky River Reservation. So I'm there, and I see this being, and he's talking, and he looks at me, and he's like, oh, he's like, you can see me. And I go, yeah. And he's like, do you have time to talk? I have questions for you. And I was like, actually, we were on our way back, but I'd be happy to come back and visit you again later. And he's like, okay. He's like, that's fine. He's like, come back whenever you want. And so outwardly, all I'm doing is just staring at this stump, right? Mm-hmm. But Eris is watching me do this, and she's like, what were you looking at? And I was like, there was this little being on that stump. And she's like, did it look like Dobby from Harry Potter? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. And so we were both seeing the same being at the same time, but appearing to us
seeing through the
way.
Distortion field.
Seeing through the distortion field, exactly. And so then we continued that walk, and we just started pointing out all the beings we saw, and it was literally like 10 beings in a row. So there was one. It looked like a big gorilla type thing swinging through the trees and landed in this one tree. And I saw it swing over here, and it lands there. And Eros goes, there's this big being up in that tree. It looks kind of like a gorilla monkey type thing. And I was like, yeah, I see the same thing. It looks the exact same way to me. There are all these beings in this tree, like these white little like spirits like hanging out in a tree. And I'm like, they look like those things from the little tree spirits from Princess Mononoke. She'd never seen the movie, so she was like, oh, they look like these little creatures from Sonic. And we Googled to see what they look like, and we're like, yeah, they're really similar looking, but we're comparing it to something, that we can explain, that we know that we've seen before, but we're seeing the same thing, And so it was literally like 10 times on one hike that we saw the same spiritual beings appear to us the same way. And so these morphic fields, the distortion fields, are breaking down more and more, and it's really exciting to me, man. Mm-hmm. It's very exciting.
Super exciting.
It's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, I love this reality. I mean, I used to hate it, but
yeah, me too.
now it's kind of backwards. Now it's like sometimes I'm like, yeah, I like it so much. I'm a little bit sad that it's impermanent.
Yeah,
that it's temporary, and so temporary because of my full awareness of quantum shifting. Yeah. It's like every week I go through many different lives.
Oh yeah.
And even Dave will say that. It's like I wake up like something new every day.
Yep.
Like, yeah, me too. That's amazing.
And you pay attention to, and you'll see signs of the reality shift. Like a table will be in a different place, or like you'll go to the woods and there'll be a whole section of forest
Mandela effects,
there before,
or like species of birds have popped up in the last 2 years I've never seen before. Stuff in the sky, like reality I come from, you couldn't see Mars, and I was looking at it the other night, and it looked totally different than the previous realities I just experienced. It's so red and so vivid and beautiful. I was like, yeah, that totally didn't exist before. It wasn't there.
And the thing is, because of the distortion fields and how this works, we're programmed to be like, oh, I just remembered it wrong.
Right. Like you're just accepting. Like I'll drive down the street and there's a new building. like that wasn't there before. But my mind tries to say,
Oh, I just
oh, it was
noticed that.
constructed. You just haven't been over here in a while.
Yeah.
It's, which may be some of what happens, but it's actually I'm aware of the frequency change.
Yeah.
I'm so sensitive to it now. I'm aware when it happens, and sometimes they're so intense because there's such a big jump that I feel a little sick.
Yeah.
For a little, like I have like space sickness is
Yeah,
what it feels like.
we had one, Eris and I, recently, where we came back from a trip to our parents' cabin, and reality was so different that I got back to the condo, and I was like, this isn't my house. I was like, this feels like I'm in a stranger's condo right now. Like, this doesn't feel like my place. And when I was looking at objects, like there was like some boxes on the ground from before we left, and I was like, it felt like, oh, I remember that from a past life. Like not just like it felt like it happened thousands of years ago. I'm like, this is a total, and the walls, the paint, everything looked different.
Neurological tune-up.
Completely different, to the point where I was like really like I was, like you said, really shaken up. I was like, whoa! It took me like a few days to adjust. Like,
I remember
to
you telling
even
me
be
about the
comfortable.
experience.
To
Yeah.
even be comfortable in my own condo, it took a few days to be like, okay, it's so different. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
I felt like that after. Remember, I told you about that after
Hatan.
we went on Hatan Karpai. I came back and all my hair stood up on my body. I didn't recognize my house. I knew it was going to happen. So before I left, I was hugging Raisa and Mary. I was like, I know I'm not going to see you guys again in this reality. I love you guys. Like, I'll see you later. That happened the other day. Actually, Mary did her first session of combo with Kevin Sheard. And he's part of a study that's happening for combo.
Oh, wow.
So and when she was leaving, I had all this anxiety and shit and fear coming up. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's an awareness that you're never going to see her again in this reality.
Right.
And when she came back, she was just shifted. A quantum shift had occurred. But I was acceptant of it. But I had like a lot of resistance, like
Yeah.
at there, because I could feel all this fear and resistance. And I was like, oh, it's because for me, it's like she's going to die.
Right.
But not that.
And change is very threatening to the ego.
It can be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the like I heard a saying.
Well, because it means I'm changing too. The whole quantum field changed. So
I heard a saying. It was like, the ego will let you relive your worst nightmare over and over and over again because it knows you survived it. Something new, it doesn't know whether or not it's going to survive.
Yeah.
So that's why it creates
Questions.
Fear around it. Yeah.
the fear of the unknown. I love the unknown, man. I try to go into it every chance I get.
Yeah.
That's worked out for me so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so well. So manifestation's a beautiful thing. That's something that came through. I was going to ask you, what are you manifesting now, Casey? What do you want to happen?
Oh, so here's the other thing with manifestation, right? The biggest thing that I had been, so I got the condo, got the energy healing business, doing my dream for a living, all of this. I'm like, I got everything. So I'm like, okay, the last piece.
Well, you told me also another thing that I'll point out is your partner.
Yes.
Like you told me about that.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So the last piece of this puzzle, I was like, okay, so I'm ready for my one, like the partner, like my true partner, my soulmate, the one I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. I'm ready to meet them. And so I had all of these things, I was putting out there about how, like not trying to constrict the manifestation, just essentially she'd be the absolute perfect person for me in like all the ways. And I had certain things that I imagined as well. And then I was doing all this work. I was doing ritual and manifestation work to bring her into my
I
life.
remember it. Yeah.
And then I was doing an event with you, with the Positive Pineapple. And Eris, who's off camera, Eris showed up at this event, and as soon as I saw her, I was like, she's the one. I knew right away. But so I stayed quiet and guided everyone through the experience and everything.
We met her a week earlier, I
Yeah.
think, at a holistic fair that we were doing, and I saw this girl walk by. I'm like, hey, I know you. Come here. And I started talking to her, and I was like, yeah, you're totally familiar. You're supposed to be here for that thing. And then she came to that event.
Yeah. So she showed up. I was like, I know she's the one. And I talked to her, and she told me she had a lot of like anxiety when I was talking to her for not for no reason. She said it felt like she knew I was like peering deep inside of her.
Destiny
like, soul.
calls.
Yeah, she knew I was looking deep, like seeing deep into her, and that like kind of freaked her out.
Yeah, it makes you feel naked.
Yeah, for sure. And so then I reached out to her, and because I was kind of waiting, I'm like, maybe she'll message me reach out because she was at the event. And I'm like, all right, I'm not waiting anymore. So I asked Tony because I didn't remember her name at the time. I asked Tony what her name was, and then I looked her up on Facebook and I sent her a message, and we got on the phone. We're talking to each other, and within the first phone call, we were like, I love you. I just want to tell you I love you. The first phone call. And I if you know anything about me, also, I have to preface this by saying, I have never even asked a woman out before in my life. All the relationships I'd been, the women had asked me out. Because I was always the kind of person where I'm like, oh, like I really like them. They're my friend. Like I need to be like really careful. I don't want them to think that I just like want to hang out with them because they're pretty or something like that. So I don't want to offend them. And but Spirit came through so strong. It was like, okay, you've been manifesting this. She's the one. You're gonna take her on a hike and you're gonna ask her out, and she'll say yes. Like just do it, like now. And I was like, how do I know though? Like how do I know you're not wrong though? They're like, have we ever been wrong about these things? And I'm like, no. But still, are you sure? And they're like, dude, just do it. So so she. We went on this hike, and I asked her to be my goddess, and she said yes, and here we are. And she's everything I've ever dreamed of, and so much more, and like so many ways like I just thought were absolutely impossible, and like they're so amazing. Like she's perfect in every single way. She's amazing, and she's such a powerful being too. She's the most powerful psychic I've ever met. And like,
yeah, I felt that the first time she came by.
Yeah.
Like, hey, come here.
She's so amazing. And so, yeah, it's just been, so really, like, that was the big thing I was looking to manifest. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I have some things like I do. I really want to grow the business. I want to reach a lot more people and all of this stuff. But like right now, I'm just kind of soaking in and loving everything that I've already manifested.
Right.
Kind of in this fear, I'm just like, I love all of this. Like, I'm just kind of basking in it. I love it all so much. Yeah, that's all perfect.
Floating in space.
So, there'll come a time when I'm like, okay, time to move on to set the next target, and hit the next thing and start to manifest more. But right now, I love what I've got going on. I love my life. I love, and again, same thing, saying that I love my reality. I love my life.
Yeah.
Old version of me before awakening, like I hated it here.
I used to look at it as every day is a good day, because it's one day closer to the end.
Yeah.
That's how I used to look at it.
Yeah.
It's one day closer to the end. That's good. It's a good day.
So yeah, I'm just soaking it in and enjoying it. Currently playing the new Zelda game.
Playing some games.
Yeah, I don't play video games. It's just in the past like 15 years of my life, there's only been a single video game that ever held my attention for more than like 10 minutes. And it was Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they just a week ago came out with the sequel to that, Tears of the Kingdom. So playing that, hanging out with Eris, going on hikes every single day. I've been hiking every single day, seeing my clients and things like that. And it's fucking beautiful. I love it. It's
totally beautiful, mate. Not to mention you're a mentor.
Yes, I am. I'm a mentor of the Qatari lineage of the Paqo tradition. Now I'm a lineage holder. So I'm teaching the Paqo tradition, and I also take on my own apprentices. So I teach people Casey-style shamanism, because I know so much more than just the Paqo tradition. So I teach people that as well. I have individual life. I have right now two apprentices for Casey-style shamanism. I had 4 at one point, but 2 of them dropped off. They'd been with me for like several years, and they want to go do their own.
I love apprentices. I have 7 of them, and then my proteges. I have 3 of them.
Yeah, I have 3 proteges.
So 10. I got 10 people right now that I'm training.
Nice.
To become shamans, and then we're actually beginning to write the program for Moshi shamanism, for people to become Moshi priests.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
That's going to be super cool.
Heck yeah, man! I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, Moshi. Well, I'm hoping you're part of that. I want you to be here.
Yeah, man.
You need to be one of these teachers.
Yeah,
that's what we need. Bunches of teachers. We need lots of people with experience, capability. You're one of the greatest teachers I know. You and Zane are 2 of the greatest teachers I've had in my journey so far.
Thank you so much.
In human form, I've had same thing. I've had most of my teaching came through spirit connection, but human teachers are just so amazing to me. Like you 2 have helped me become something I never thought was possible. Like where I am now in this reality is something that just totally didn't exist before. Like I didn't come from a spiritual background. I wasn't a teenage kid that went through the things you went through and everything. At that age, I was a gangster, man. I was doing some crazy stuff, and then I had a really like brutal life all the way up until I started to connect. I had my deeper awakening. That was pretty much when my deep awareness really started to happen. It was in my healing, and then it was all that just unfolded so beautifully and quickly. I'm like, my reality brings me some of the greatest teachers. Like Dave's a great teacher for me. He teaches me a lot about how he's a great manifester. This guy can make anything happen, and that's like, it's something that's just amazing to me. And he's a great teacher to teach me in those things. But I feel like everybody around me is such a beautiful teacher, and I want to be able to bring us together in ways where we can share that with the world.
Yes.
Because there's so many people now that are at the beginning of their awakening. They're at the beginning of that and need guidance.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite students. He's such a similar story to mine. This kid was an atheist, had this really intense experience where he thought he was dying, and then all of a sudden could see and feel energy, and came across my YouTube channel, found me, and now he's apprenticing under me. And he thanks me. He's like, dude, he's like, I would be either in the psych ward or dead if I hadn't met you.
Right.
And it just makes me so happy that I can be there to help other people through this, because I had no one when I went through it.
Right.
So it brings me so much joy to help guide people through these things. So like that's really some of the most fulfilling work for me.
Absolutely.
To help people through that.
I was getting manic
Yeah.
when he showed up.
Yeah.
I was getting all of these downloads, and I didn't know what to do with the
Yeah.
energy.
No organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets really chaotic really
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. I guess one thing I do want to talk about before we end, at least.
Why, you running away?
Oh, whatever. I want to bring this up. I don't want to forget to touch on this, but my biggest struggle, I would say, throughout my time since my awakening and even before then, has been with anxiety. Yours was physical issues. You also had anxiety.
Yeah, deep anxiety that was related to that mostly,
but
and my upbringing.
Yeah, my anxiety was most of the time it didn't really seem to be caused by anything. I now know that it's my energy sensitivity.
Right.
But
It's always what it is.
Yeah, but my anxiety was,
Everybody that is anxious, that's what it is. It's energy sensitivity.
and so I would have such horrible anxiety that I would lose jobs over it. I mean, I would sit there in bed. I would lay there in bed and just like have panic attacks all day and not be able to leave my room or do anything. I couldn't even look at my phone or like look at a TV. Like looking at a TV was panic attack inducing.
Yeah, you would fawn. So it's a fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Yeah.
Mine was more like fight.
Yeah.
So my anxiety would come forward in aggression.
Yeah.
And I would attack my job with aggression. I did 20 years of a job I hated and used what I called pure grit.
Yeah.
But that was my anxiety that was coming through. And everybody just has a different way they react. Yours is more of a fawn or a freeze. You fawn or freeze kind of in that space.
Yeah. So that's been my biggest, and that was, even after my awakening, I'm like, okay, this is, if I can, and I didn't have the know-how, I didn't have the training and to know how to go deep and heal deep traumas and things like that. So I was like, I know it's possible. I know I can heal my anxiety, but for years it was like out of reach for me with my current capabilities. And so I went deep into alcoholism and opiate addiction as well. And the alcoholism was the worst. I mean, I would drink enough to put the average person into the hospital with alcohol poisoning every single night.
You got that way
life.
with some other things too.
Yeah, I did. I took enough poppy to put someone into.
I remember like being blown away.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is going on? I love you, man. You gotta stop this.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I was a case of beer a day drinker.
Yeah. Oh, I would. Yeah, at least, man. I would drink. So the handles of not. There's the fifth, the liter, and then the biggest is the handle. Right? The biggest bottle you can get. I would drink one of those every 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
And beer and cider on top of that. So every single day I would drink at least like a whole bottle, like a fifth. Worth.
Drowning your sensitivity.
Yeah, and I knew I was doing it too.
But you know what else to do?
I knew it was shutting off my energy sensitivity, and that's what I wanted because the energy was so intense and so uncomfortable. I'm like, this is the only thing that I just numb it out. That's the only relief I ever get. That's the only thing that helps my anxiety. Or so I thought at the time.
I can remember having like, for me, like I wouldn't have like panic attacks where I would freeze, but it would be like very stressed and like I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. I just need to get off. This is terrible. Like this terrible anxiety attack on my way to the bar. Mary would be driving to the bar. I'm like, please, could you hit the fucking gas? Let's go. I need to get to the bar.
Yeah.
Kind
Oh,
of thing.
yeah.
I'd have all this anxiety just to get there to drink, just so I could slam that first beer and that first shot, and everything started to calm down.
Yes. Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like when I was working jobs. I would wait until I got home to drink, so at least I could function at a job. But like, man, same thing. I would like basically run lights and shit to get home, just so that I could have that alcohol, just so I could slam like 3 shots in a row, then crack open a big tall boy and okay, all right, now I can relax finally. But it was bad, man. Yeah, and I was to the point where it was like I knew the alcohol was killing me, and like the opiates were gonna kill me, and all this stuff. And there was a lot of the time I was like, good. If it kills me, then I don't have to suffer from this
I can't handle
anymore.
this, right?
So I can't handle.
I felt the same way.
Yeah, and so I mean, the Paqo Kuna tradition really saved my life.
Yeah.
It gave me tools to actually start healing.
Same.
On a deep, deep level, because I had the connection, and even during this time when I was drowning myself with alcohol and had all this anxiety, I could still perform miraculous healings for people. I could help other people to heal from their
because
anxiety.
you are stepping out of that mind and you're
Yeah.
stepping into your channel of light, your spirit.
But I couldn't do it for myself.
Of course not. We're not meant to till it's time.
Yeah. So now it's amazing to me now, like even just the fact that I drove here with my partner, came here, talked to you guys, and I'm sitting here relaxing, doing this podcast without any anxiety.
Right.
Is a fucking
I think it's
miracle.
beautiful.
It's a miracle to me. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like there were times in my life I never thought anything like this would be possible.
How'd you do it?
So there's a lot of things. It's no one particular thing.
Of course not. It's never one thing. But what would you point out as some of the most powerful things? What would you recommend to people who are suffering with anxiety? What can they do to help themselves?
Yeah, so honestly, for me, so I have to talk about different aspects. In terms of actually treating day-to-day anxiety as it arises, trance. So learning to control your brainwave state, taking yourself out of those beta, gamma, fight or flight brainwave frequency, taking yourself down into low alpha, mid theta. Learning to control your brainwave state has been monumental for helping my anxiety. Also, practicing presence.
And how do you do that? How do you practice?
So there's
so that's the word I'm getting at.
Yeah.
What's the practice? And that's what we teach as shamans, is help people connect to a practice, connect to your practice of change.
Right. So it is, like you said, it's a practice. So it's something you practice and you get better at. It's a skill you learn over time. And it's changed how I've done it over the years. And like I said, hypnosis was one of the first things I got into. So that was a tool I've had with me entering into trance since the beginning. But in the past couple of years, it's really evolved a lot, and I've refined it a lot. I go into trance differently on different days in different ways. But really what trance is a relaxed but focused state of mind. So I'll typically start by taking like 3 deep breaths, imagining I'm inhaling calm, exhaling stress and worry. Do that, and then I will start with autogenic training. So autogenic training.
Describe that.
Autogenic training, so breaking down the word auto, self, genic, generated. So it's self-generated sensations that you create in the body. So you start out like you're at your feet, and you create the sensation of like heaviness. Not like hucha, not heavy energy, but like gravity, like comfortable, like the loving embrace of Mother Earth. So you feel that heaviness in your feet, and I like to create like lots of tingling, turn into the energy sensations, and warmth. So heavy, tingly, warm. Create those 3 sensations so they get nice and strong in the feet, and then let that spread up through the body. Until your whole body feels like that kind of sensation, like before you go to sleep at night, when you lay down after a really long day and you're really tired and you're so ready to just give in to sleep and your body feels all warm and heavy and tingly and you just nod off. You're kind of creating that sensation in the body. And that right there will bring you into a pretty good trance. So there's that.
You almost put me in one. I'm trying to stay focused.
Yeah. There's that, and then there are other things I'll do to go deeper after I do that. So one of the things I like to do is start and this is something I've done for a few years, but have just started using it a lot more regularly, like within the past week. Is I'll start in feeling the energy in my body, and then I'll expand out to feel the energy of my Paqo, my energy field, go out to feel the energy of the room, go out to feel the energy of the whole city that I'm in, the whole state, the whole country, the Earth, the solar system, the galaxy, our galaxy cluster, the whole universe, the multiverse. Just keep expanding out until I can feel like everything. And that brings me really deep into trance. Another cool trick I learned is to create the sensation that you're falling. So I'll imagine and also counting down like 10, 9, because that's why I have that anchored to bring me deep into trance.
Right.
So what I'll do is I'll combine counting with falling. So I'll imagine after I've expanded out into the multiverse, I'll imagine I'm in like space, and then I'm falling, and then I'll see like I'll fall through the number 10, and I'll see it like I fall through it, and then it gets farther away as I'm falling. I see the number 10 kind of go further in the distance. Then I fall through 9, and it comes further away as I go into trance, and then 8, and I'll do that, and that brings me pretty deep too.
It's beautiful.
And then a journeying. So I'll enter after I'm nice and relaxed and have a light trance going. I'll enter the journey space. And there's all kinds of things. I literally lately I've been calling on the spirit of deep theta brain waves to come, and she shows up in this like form of a female with this like frequency ring around her head. And she'll hold my hands and she'll feed her energy and wake up the spirit of theta brain waves in my body. And so she'll just feed that energy, and that just immediately takes me down really fast. And also just go with the spirit of relaxation or the spirit of rest.
Yeah, calling in. Yeah.
Call them in and share energy with them. Share energy back and forth with them. So, and there's all kinds of, and even just being in the journey space and relax. Like some people when they journey, they want to go on all these big adventures and like do all this crazy healing work.
Sometimes it's like that.
Sometimes, and then a lot of the time, if I'm just trying to relax, I'll go into the journey space. I'll hang out on the beach with my guides and like have a kombucha plant medicine.
The beach is
drink.
one of my favorite places to go when I go into trance. I'll start from there. Sometimes I like to lay right on the edge of the water and let the water, and I'll use my breath up to the top of my head and back into the ocean, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Love beaches. White sand, blue skies, birds, sometimes people.
Oh, yeah.
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 I love these kind of tools, man.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Well,
So
at the top of a mountain.
Love those too.
Oh yeah, there's a mountain I hang out on frequently. It's a snowy mountain too. I like to hang out on the snowy mountain. That's really relaxing. I love the cold. Like I'm a polar bear. I really.
No kidding. You got to be kidding me. This is the only guy I know that like comes over the first time ever taking an ice bath. Like he was out in the lake once, and like it was cold, but this is a little bit different. And he just comes in, he plops down in there, and he doesn't even struggle a bit. Not even like
or anything.
Like most people, the first time they get in, and there's at least that first reaction, and I'm telling him, relax your breath. Relax, slow it down. We did a little before he got in. He just gets in. He looks at me. He's like, yeah, I can handle this. He stays in there like 7 or 8 minutes the first time. And then
the water was 28 degrees. That
it was below freezing. It was
freezing.
so cold that it was like foggy looking. He felt thick. It was just getting ready to freeze. The only thing stopping from freezing was the pump circulating it in there. It was so cold. And then he started just doing it more, and then he starts going in like can hold his breath for like this ridiculously long amount of time.
Yeah.
And he'll like go, okay, and he does like 7. One time he did 12 minutes. He's in there, and then he dunks in. And Mary's standing there watching, and she's getting nervous.
I heard her one time.
He's okay.
I heard her once.
Yeah.
Like, should we get him out?
I'm like, no.
I was underwater.
Yeah.
I could hear her saying that.
And this guy, he goes under the water, and he stays under there for almost a whole minute, and then comes out, and then he shakes off, and, it's like, wow, how do you not? I get brain freeze when I go under there for that long, usually through my eyes. And he's just under, and he just comes out like, yeah, that was great, man. That was fun. Yeah, you're definitely a polar bear. Like,
I have not yet done an ice bath.
Oh, you got to do it, man. There's
well, Dave has a little bit of trauma that happened, so it'll be a trauma release for him when he does it. What happened, Dave? What is it again? What
I got stuck in a snowstorm on my motorcycle when I was in college and got hypothermia.
Oh, really?
So
damn.
Yeah, almost lost your life.
Yeah, I was just sitting under blankets for like 6 hours, just shivering uncontrollably.
Jeez, man.
So that was...
Yeah, a little trauma.
My body hasn't reacted to cold the same way.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but you've been starting to take cold showers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
so you're
good.
priming
That's a huge
yourself.
step.
That's a big step,
It's a huge step towards healing.
It's a big step. And now you're getting all this beautiful energetic download to help you control your mind when you get in there. I can't wait to sit down now after the show. I'm going to fall through some numbers. That sounds awesome. I'm like, dude, that sounds so fun.
Yeah, dude. It's
like,
great.
as soon as you start saying, I was like, oh, I can see 10.
Oh yeah, did have some kratom
falling.
go into trance. I'll guide us all into trance if you want after that.
It's actually what I want to happen before we end this is I want you just to do like a mini meditation with us.
I'd love to.
Because I just love the way like you just have a very good quality about you. Like, so I work with a lot of people and they'll say there's something about your voice and something you do. And we're back from P break number 3 with Casey McBride.
Casey the Space Shaman.
Yeah, the Space Shaman. It started off as Shaman's Way, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it started off?
Yeah, it was Shaman's Way, and then I wanted like a moniker, like to call myself.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I'm like, what fits? Because you're like the quantum shaman. I know someone else is the sonic shaman who does a lot of sound healing. I'm like, I can't figure out one thing that describes like what I do because I do so much stuff, and well, it all comes from. Like my ability to do all of this stuff comes from my deep knowing that I am space. I am the one. Yeah. And I call the one.
Explain that though, because for a lot of people, space, like you mean like outer space. Like go deeper into what you mean.
So it's the same thing. When we feel this spaciousness inside of us, our consciousness itself is the exact same thing that we refer to as outer space, and it's the space in between all the cells of our body. It's the space inside of the atoms of our body. It's the same thing. It's all spaciousness, and that is the single thing that in truth exists throughout the multiverse is space itself, and everything is held within space, and yet everything's not separate from it either. It's all space, and that's who we are at our deepest level. At the deepest level, what we are is space, and the space is conscious. It's alive and it is consciousness itself. And so when I do these healings, I'll call on the spirits to help, and then I get out of the way and I enter into this space where I have no thought, no emotion. I am just pure space, and that's where things like we were talking about with Mary's knee, where her knee was just, but then like that was just healed.
Yeah,
is because I'm totally empty and I know that I am the one, the space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when I let Anthony get out of the way, people ask me, "What's going to happen in this session?" I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you're going to just let it be a mystery. It works better that way. Mm-hmm. We're probably going to breathe and talk, and then something will happen. Mm-hmm. Oh, I have to get out of the way first.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah. So I guess a question that came forward for me, and I wanted to ask you because being a Paqo is a very big honor and a very beautiful thing to have access to so much beautiful energy and spirit and the living tradition itself. And I find it to be, for me, just amazingly beautiful. So if you could just give us a little bit like how you feel. What does it feel like to you? Tell us what it's like for you to be a Paqo. What does Paqo mean to you? Well, we know it means nature mystic. For anyone that don't know what Paqo means, it means nature mystic is really what that translates to.
Yeah.
But what does it mean to you?
For me, it's what really helped me to deeply, deeply appreciate the relationships I have with spirits and with the living world, the living universe. It helped me to go so much deeper into my relationships with everything that is. Because that's what being any Paqo or not, that's what being any shaman is about relationships. So, for example, if I want to do healings for people, if I want to help someone heal their anxiety or heal their physical pain or whatever's going on, if I have a deep, close relationship with one of my angel friends who's very skilled at healing this particular type of anxiety, then I can, because I know them so well and I know what their strengths are and they're my friend and I know them on this beautiful, deep, connected level, I know, hey, you're the one to call and can you, and just like if you had a really good friend in real life, you have a good rapport with them, you're really close to them, you know that if something happens and you need their help, you can ask them and they're going to help you. Same thing with the spirits, developing that relationship. When you need their help, you call them, they're going to show up, and they know if they need your help, you'll help them as well. So yeah, it really helped me to just go deep, much, much deeper than I already had, into appreciating and developing my relationships with all spirits, not just like angels and dragons and things like this, but the spirit of the food that I'm eating, the water that I'm drinking, the air that I'm breathing, the sun, the spirit of sleep itself, the spirit of relaxation, the spirit of literally anything. Everything is alive and conscious and has spirit. Everything. Mm-hmm. And can be communicated with. Everything does. So that's really the biggest part of being a Paqo for me is it's all about the relationships.
Yeah, I could feel that through your frequency and the agreement within me with that, and how it shows up for me in more recent terms and in a language I use is gratitude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I found that I'm so balanced and Aini with my gratitude, like in the last just, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, it's really started to open up I've had gratitude for a long time for things, but now it's so intense that I can actually, it's just a word. You say gratitude, it's a word, it's a concept. It's teaching, allowing yourself to go beyond the mental idea of what it means and feeling it, which is beyond the language. And then you can feel the vibration. And when you really feel the vibration, you can cultivate it, and then you can radiate it. And then, like how you said, everything's alive. And it loves us so much that if I can give gratitude to this mic stand, which I'm doing right now, I can feel it loves me. And I feel so in balance with my reality. And you can feel that with everything in the room just by opening your attention to it. So.
Yeah, man, it's so beautiful. I mean, I teach all of my apprentices this, and it's one of my favorite things to teach is, if you just sit there, whether it's a microphone stand or a spiritual being you're seeing in front of you, like an angel or something, or or water or the sun or whatever, if you sit there and you do exactly what you just said, send your gratitude, your light, your sami, your light energy to them with your love and gratitude, and they'll send you back far more than you gave them.
Yeah.
And the cool paradoxical thing about this is that they are receiving far more than they're giving you, and you're receiving far more than you're giving them.
Right.
And in this way, both parties grow in power.
Right.
And so when you do this, also when you sit down and practice this back and forth, like send and receive, you get really high.
Yeah.
And it feels really good.
Sami sick sometimes.
You can get so high on Sami that you can literally become nauseous. You can get that high, that intoxicated on pure energy. Yeah.
The only way I find my way out of it is really if I can bring my awareness to it quick enough, I can tap my tailbone into the earth with Pachamama, and I can kind of start to flow. And I'm like, oh, whew, I'm about to puke. Like it's so heavy. It's so much light moving through me. It feels it's heavy. It's so fast moving. It's disturbing. Yeah, like my nervous system's overwhelmed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I at one point was playing with this Aini practice, going back and forth, sending and receiving, and I was like, I wonder how intense it can get, while also negating the nausea that sometimes comes along with it. So I was doing practices to negate the nausea, which I don't remember what they were. But I just kept building. The energy sensations got stronger. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep going. Stronger. I'm like, I wonder what happens. Like, I'll just keep going. And I got to this point where the energy built to a certain point, and then there was this like pop. And then all of a sudden, everything turned into looked like I was on DMT. Where like I saw these like insane, complex geometric shapes and patterns of light all around me. And then Ganesha showed up in front of me. And there were all these like thousands of Ganesha fractals around me as well. And Ganesha came up to me. And I was like seeing this like basically with my physical eyes as well, not just with the imagination sense, which rarely happens for me. And he looks at me and he just touches my heart, touches his heart. And then he puts up one finger, and he just said, "God." That was all he said to me. And that was such a. And after that, like any anxiety or stress or anything in my body was so gone, and I was so empty, and I felt so peaceful. Like for like 2 days after that, I was like just in this perpetual state of the deepest peace and bliss. And it was beautiful. Yeah, it was amazing. And that was just literally, I wasn't taking any substances. I was just sharing energy back and forth with my guides. Yeah, it's amazing. It's so incredible what you can do with just connecting consciously to energy. It's incredible. It's
the practice. It's initiation, of course. Like initiation, getting oneself initiated into that relationship, starting the relationship, and then feeding the relationship, giving and taking. Like I think that's a hard part. That's what I find the hardest part for the people I train, teach, and heal is getting them to commit themselves to the practice.
Yes.
That's always a good question. It's someone I asked last time. So when you have someone that, you're trying to help them heal, you're trying to help them change, and they're resistant to practice, how do you handle that? What do you do? I'm always like, so for me, and I don't know if that's the right answer is usually, well, maybe you're not ready to change.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't. And as I was just going to say, it's different based on every single person. Some people, you need to work with them and get to the why, like why are you resistant? And sometimes if you can find that out, then you can resolve that and then do healing for them. But a lot of people, they don't want to heal. I specifically remember this one instance where I was at Goddess Elite, and I was doing healings there, and this woman comes in, and I was doing physical healings at the time. I was doing a lot of physical healings, and she had a messed up arm where she didn't have full use of her hand, and she had a lot of pain. And so I start healing it, and the pain starts to lower down, and she's like, wait, stop. And I go, what? And she goes, I just realized I don't want this to heal. And I go, why? And she goes, because if this heals, then that means I have to go back to work, and I don't want to do that. So I was like, okay, well then we're done here. You know, and other people may have different. Other people may say if they have physical pain, maybe the physical pain is their excuse for why, you know, when there's gatherings, like a family gathering or a friend gathering that they don't want to go to because they have anxiety or they just don't like those people that much. They use the pain as my pain's too bad today, I can't come. So they don't want to heal it because if they don't have that, they don't have that excuse.
Right.
So they don't actually want to heal. So it's every single person is a unique case. So and if you can get to the why, sometimes you can help them, sometimes you can't. Sometimes they need more time. Sometimes they need to suffer more before they're truly ready.
Yeah, that's usually the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't change until change looks better than suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
That's about it.
Yeah, for real.
Well, Casey, what I would like you to do is what we were talking about before. If you want to lead us into just short, under 10 minutes, 7 minutes or something like that. You don't have to watch the clock, but because we can get lost in no time zone really quick there.
Yeah, we can.
So if you could just lead us into whatever comes through. I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Sure. I have no idea what I'm going to lead us through, but I know it's going to be beautiful. Okay. So for everyone watching at home, find yourself in a comfortable position, preferably where you're not having to support your body. Somewhere where you can lie down, that's really nice. Or if you're sitting in a chair, make sure your head is all the way back and you're completely relaxed. And we're just going to take a few breaths to bring us here into the present moment. Take a deep breath in, inhaling calm. Exhale, breathing out all stress and worries, feeling it leave. Breathing in more calm, slowly and easily, not forcing your breath. Exhale any stress, tension, and worry. Slowly let it out. And start to sink down into your body, feeling your body. Start to become aware of the sensations in your body. Drop out of the head where we spend so much of our time. And come into the body. The body loves when we give it this attention. Feeling the body. Take another breath, breathing in calm. Exhaling any stress, tension, or worry. Bring your awareness all into your feet. Imagine that your feet are like the most interesting movie you've ever watched. Just keep all of your attention on your feet and whatever sensations are already present there. Are your feet warm or cool? Are they tense or relaxed? Are they tingly? Just notice any sensations that are already there. And simply by thinking and imagining these sensations, we can create them and make these sensations very real for ourselves. So think to yourself a few times, my feet are feeling heavy. My feet are feeling heavy. My feet are feeling heavy. And feel your feet starting to feel a little heavier with every breath. And this is not the heaviness of heavy emotions. This is the loving embrace of Mother Earth holding you down lovingly with gravity. And also imagining that the warmth, like the loving rays of the sun, are entering into your feet, and your feet begin to feel pleasantly warm, the kind of warmth that just melts away any tension, like when you're relaxing on a beach. You just lay in the sand and the sun feels so relaxing. Sink into that sensation. Thinking to yourself, my feet are feeling warmer. My feet are feeling warm. My feet are feeling warmer. And feel your feet becoming warmer and warmer. Heavier and heavier. Warmer and warmer with every breath. And you may or may not notice at this point a slight tingling sensation in your feet associated with this relaxation. If it's there, allow it to become stronger, thinking to yourself, my feet are feeling tinglier, tinglier and tinglier. My feet are feeling heavy, warm, and tingly. And enjoy these comfortable, relaxing sensations. Imagining this as the kind of fuzzy, warm, tingly heaviness that you feel at the end of a long day when you're getting ready to go to bed and just give in to sleep. A kind of warmth and fuzzy, tingly heaviness that just feels so good to give into, to fall asleep. Allow yourself to start to drift there as this sensation begins to spread up into your ankles and into your lower legs, your shins and calves. Shins and calves feeling heavier and heavier, tinglier and tinglier and warmer with every breath. Allow the sensation to grow stronger the more you keep your attention on it. And the stronger it grows, the more of your attention it pulls. The more of your attention it pulls, the stronger it becomes. Let it continue to spread through your body, up your knees, into your quadriceps and hamstrings, your thighs, your upper legs. Heavier, heavier and heavier. Warmer and warmer. Fuzzier and tinglier. Let it continue to spread into your hips and into your torso, spreading at the pace that's comfortable for you. Legs, feet, hips, and torso, with every breath getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Warmer and warmer, fuzzier and tinglier. More and more deeply relaxed. Allow this pleasurable sensation of relaxation to spread into your shoulders and down your arms, allowing any tension in the shoulders to melt away as they drop down. As this heavy, warm, tingly sensation spreads down through the arms, all the way into the hands and fingertips, everything becoming heavier and heavier. Warmer and warmer, tinglier and tinglier, more relaxed. Let it spread up through your neck and around the back of your head and scalp to all the muscles of the face and jaw, forehead feeling heavy, eyelids feeling heavy, heavier and heavier, jaw dropping down, feeling heavier, everything feeling heavier and warmer and tinglier, and enjoying this. It feels good. Allow yourself to allow it to feel good. Allow yourself to enjoy these comfortable, pleasurable sensations of relaxation. Just take a minute to enjoy this as everything gets even heavier, even warmer, even tinglier. I want you to imagine now that you are lying down in the most comfortable place possible for your spirit to relax. Imagine you are lying down in some place where everything is just so serene and quiet and peaceful. And find a spot where you can lie down, either in a bed or on the ground. And just imagine you're laying down there in the most comfortable place you can imagine. And imagine that this imagined body that you're in is laying down to go to sleep. Imagine you're getting more and more tired. And as you lay down in this relaxed place, you start to feel the sensations of sleep starting to overtake you. Feeling as though you're being pulled deep into dreamy, restful sleep. Allow your spirit to fall asleep and allow your physical body to move closer towards sleep. And as your spirit falls asleep and your body goes closer to it, imagine that your spirit begins to dream and you find yourself walking down a beautiful path in the forest, the most beautiful forest you've ever seen. And as you walk down this path, you begin to notice the things that you see around you in more detail. The trees, the other plants, and the animals. And you begin to hear the sounds associated with this place. The sound of your footsteps, sound of the wind rustling through the leaves and the trees, the sound of any animals like birds or something else. Any other natural sounds you begin to notice. And you begin to notice the smells as well. The smell of the trees and the woods. And you take a deep breath in and enjoy this beautiful smell. And as you continue to walk, you start to notice the sensations associated with this place. Maybe the wind against your skin or the warmth of the sun or something else. Just continue to walk and enjoy this little vacation. Enjoy this. There's no destination. We're not trying to get anywhere. We're just enjoying this space that we're in. And as you're walking, you begin to smell a campfire. You can smell the smell of a campfire, and so you begin to walk in that direction. And as you walk in the direction of the smell, you begin to be able to see the light of the campfire. And you notice that there are some people around the campfire, some very friendly, loving, feeling and looking people. Maybe they're people you used to know or that you know in this life, or spiritual beings that you've heard about but not met. It could be anyone. Whoever's there, when you get to the campfire, just sit down with them. Be in their presence. And ask them to provide some gentle, relaxing healing for you. Whatever their particular unique medicine is, ask them to share it with you. And I'll give us a few minutes of silence to just receive whatever healing they have in store for us. And let these beings know while you're continuing to receive this healing that you have to go in about a minute. So ask them to gently and naturally wrap up this healing experience within the next minute. And when they're done, take a moment to express your gratitude to them. Thank them for this healing. Hug them. Express your gratitude in whatever way you see fit. And then allow all of the sounds and sensations and sights and smells of this place to start to fade into the background. Until you see the backs of your eyelids in full detail. Take a deep breath in and gently exhale. Becoming aware of some of the physical sensations of your body, the chair or bed or ground underneath you. Feeling some things your body is in physical contact with. Taking a deep breath and exhaling. Noticing some of the sounds in the room around you. And just becoming a little bit more aware of the space that you're in by just remembering where you are. Take a deep breath and exhale. Slowly opening your eyes and noticing the first thing that you see, just its shape and color. Keeping your attention on it for a moment. Another deep breath and exhale. Feeling more energy return to your body, begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Coming back now. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you feel?
Oh, wow. Super relaxed.
Me too.
That was really awesome. I had a lot of, as soon as it started, my whole body got to the point where you took us to.
Yeah.
So it was like just reminding me as it was happening of where I already was.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that I would have totally left here completely, but I was aware of some background noise.
Yeah.
That was the only thing keeping me here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Which is good, because otherwise I'd probably still be out. So nothing's wrong.
I'd have to come over there, grab your hand, and come to your ear to call you back. Yeah.
Call me on back.
Yeah.
Wow, Casey, thank you so much. You're such a wonderful, powerful being, and I adore you, brother. I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you so much.
Thank you so much
I
for
love
being
you
here.
too.
Being here with
Both
us.
of you.
You can find Casey where? Where can people find you? Talk about where they can find you, Casey.
So yeah, YouTube. If you go on YouTube and search The Space Shaman, I'm pretty sure I'm the only channel that comes up when you search that. But yeah, YouTube, The Space Shaman. Same thing, The Space Shaman on Facebook if you want to reach out to me on there. I prefer people subscribe to the YouTube channel, so if you don't mind subscribing, I'm trying to help spread the magic of spirituality and healing to as many people as possible. So every subscriber helps, so go on over to The Space Shaman and subscribe. That would be a huge help. And then that's the main place to go. Yeah.
Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Also for this site, for this one, for
Moshi.
For this, because we want to get some more viewers. If we get some more viewers, then we can monetize and really start to make some change into the world. So we invite you to come into there.
Oh, and also CaseyTheSpaceShaman.com. So my name's CASEY, thespaceShaman.com. That's my website. People can go to.
We'll have links on the video on YouTube as well as Spotify for all of that information.
As well as
Thank you.
Spotify. Also, make sure you visit your local kava bar. And if anyone's local here, come on over and visit Sacred Waters. We'd love to see you here. We also have Moshi meetings every Sunday at 1:32 p.m.
At the North Olmsted location on Lorraine Road. 30111 Lorraine Road.
Yeah. Check out thepositivepineapple.org. What else, Dave? Who else do you want?
Check out moshilove.org. We are still working on our membership drive, trying to create abundance to facilitate true change and create systemic healing and open the first of many healing centers.
And we got some events coming up for Moshi that we're bringing together, so that's going to be super awesome.
Yes.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Casey, I love you.
Casey.
I love you guys. I love
Saiwak,
you so much.
Apun Kunamanta. Yeah, I love you, bro.
Anaiki kuyaiki.
Anaki kuyaiki.
Arpichai.
Arpichai songkolai.
Ulukununa wakichais. I love you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Love you all.
Bye.
This has been the Quantum Shamans presented by Moshi with David and Anthony. We look forward to seeing you next week for more insight into who you are and your place in the universe.